Yes.
I'll record.
Ready? Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of October 3rd, 2024 to order. We have two public hearings scheduled for this evening, so I want to take just a few minutes to review the process for public hearings in the current hybrid format of our meetings. During the public hearing, I insist that we treat each other respectfully, do not interrupt, and follow the required structure of the meeting. Everyone will be given a fair opportunity to hear, review, submit, comment on the testimony and evidence the commission will use to render a decision. All speakers must be recognized by the chair before being allowed to speak. As a reminder, we and the commission are here to listen and ask questions of the applicant. We should refrain from conversations, and I ask that all cell phones be silenced during the meeting. The steps for conducting a public hearing are as follows. Step 1, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The applicant or staff will share all application materials on the screen as needed. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. Step 2, commissioners will ask clarifying questions before speaking. Each commissioner will be recognized by the chair. Step 3, attendees will have an opportunity for clarifying questions and comments. Anyone who wishes to speak must raise their hand and be recognized by the chair before they speak. For Zoom attendees, please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, attendees will state their names and addresses before asking their questions or making statements. According to Connecticut land use law, cross-examination of persons testifying is allowed, but cross-examination of commissioners is not. Step 4, the applicant will have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners and must be given the opportunity to speak again without interruption. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Land Use Department at 203-245-5631 after 9 a.m. All actions taken tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are members Mike Bugda, Jeff Downs, John Duza, John Morgan, Bob O'Connor, and Bob Reinhardt, and myself, Carol Snow, Chair. Staff present this evening is Aaron Mannix, Town Planner. The meeting is live streamed on YouTube and will be made available on the town website for viewing. And the Town Planner will now read the legal notice. Aaron Mannix.
Sure. Notice is hereby given that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. in Meeting Room A, Town Campus, 8 Campus Drive, Madison, Connecticut, 06443. This is a hybrid meeting and attendees may also join via Zoom webinar through either the webinar link or call-in information below. The webinar ID is 915-8196-6735. The password is 452138. The call-in number is 646-558-8656. The following application will be heard. Number 24-36, 908 and 916 Boston Post Road, map 39, lots 3 and 4, zone R2. Owner, The General's Residences at Fence Creek Homeowners Association, Inc. Special exception permit modification and coastal site plan applications to modify previous approval to substitute pedestrian access easement for an easement to perpetually maintain a viewscape and related signage. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the land use office. Further details on how to participate in the webinar are posted on the Town of Madison website, www.MadisonTV.org. All written correspondence can be submitted to the Land Use Department via email to landuse@MadisonCT.org. Dial 203-245-5631 for assistance. Dated at Madison, Connecticut, this 10th day of September 2024. Carol Snow, Chair. This was published in The Source on September 19th, 2024, and once on September 26th, 2024.
Thank you, Aaron. So the first item on our agenda is 24-28, which is 454 Horsepond Road, map 84, lot 28, zone RU1. The owner is 454 Horsepond LLC, applicant Mack Building LLC, petition for zone boundary change pursuant to section 27 to change the designation of land from RU1 district to open space conservation district for a 4-lot subdivision. At the request of the applicant, this public hearing was opened September 19th, 2024, and immediately tabled to tonight's meeting. And the applicant has now requested that the public hearing be continued to our October 17th, 2024 meeting. Therefore, could I have a motion to continue this public hearing to October 17th? Mike Bugden, second. Bob O'Connor, any discussion? All in favor?
Just one point for discussion. Can we ask the applicant to provide some additional information at the next meeting, or should we wait till the next meeting? Okay.
Yes, there hasn't been any discussion.
Okay, so I should wait.
Yeah. Correct.
For clarification, thanks. All in favor then? We did vote.
Yeah.
Just after those comments. All right, next on the agenda is 24-36, 908 and 916 Boston Post Road. And with the applicant, please come forward.
Would you like me here?
Our microphone is here,
Ah,
so
okay.
that I can, you want
That's
me to
fine.
turn the podium for
Yeah,
you?
that might be great.
Jim? There, we could catch you.
Great, is that good? Sure. Perfect. Thank you, Aaron. Good evening. For the record, my name is James Perito. I'm an attorney at Halloran Sage. I'm here representing the applicant, the general's residence at Fence Creek Homeowners Association, Inc. This is a request to modify the special permit that you previously granted. You've had, you've seen this before, last fall, I guess it was, you came. And before I get into this, I'd like to have Cindy Gardner just give a brief history for the record. She can come up and she'll do that, and then I'll get into the application. Thank you.
Okay, all right, Cindy Gardner, 916 Boston Post Road, Madison. And all right, it's good to see all of you again. I just wanted to do a quick summary for those of most of you I know. But so we met the last session we were here was in February of this year, and we were conceptually in agreement that the area proposed for the viewing was not quite that safe or viable for viewing. So we agreed in principle to work with the land use attorney, Jim, to develop a proposal to create a more meaningful public view. You guys discussed with us that you couldn't put the matter to a vote without the town's attorney counsel as to the easement document that would replace the existing one if we were able to. And the term of our original application was near the expiration. So at your advice, we withdrew our application so that we could resubmit at a later date. So here we are. After that, I met with Erin because I really wanted to be sure what exactly you were looking for and be on the right track with her. So we met, and Erin really helped me with, we composed a list of 5 main things that I needed to get together for you to have a complete formal package to present to you. One was hire the land use attorney to write a draft amended easement language to move and shrink this, the actual size of the specific area while still including maintaining the view and maintaining the invasive species in the marsh on our property. Our understanding was that Erin would connect our attorney with the town's attorney for feedback. And number 2, we were to share our invasive species management plan, which we've done, and including our vendor and our timeline, and that we started. Number 3 was to provide an example of an educational sign, and we'd really like to match what's happening on the Green Trail in Hammonasset and sort of carry it through and have a similar sign so that maybe there would be a connection with Green Trail and the walking downtown. Number 4 was to complete that application to the coastal access easement application once again, and the application to the town for our special exemption permit modification. So we now have completed all my 5 assignments, and 22 items at least were delivered on August 29th for you guys to look over at planning and zoning. But we consider the easement language submitted by our attorney, Jim Perito, to be the most significant. As you guys had suggested, we connected Jim with Aaron via email in March a couple of times. And on May, we notified Aaron that Jim would be submitting. He wrote a draft supplement and a draft easement to her on that day. So absent a response to discuss or negotiate, we just decided to go ahead, and Jim delivered our entire package to you guys on August 29th. So we are here now asking the committee to vote on approving the easement modification as delivered, shrinking it and moving it to a safer spot and making it a more meaningful educational spot rather than something that we felt was very unsafe, and you just couldn't see anything. When you go there, as you saw, it's a depressed area, and if you sat down, you would see absolutely nothing. So we are hoping that what we have proposed would be acceptable to you guys. So I'll let Jim go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as Cindy said, the materials are all submitted, and what we're seeking essentially is to shrink the easement area closer up to where the right-of-way is, so it would be on the edge of the property, and that's all been submitted. I thought it'd be helpful if you had in the record a couple of things. One is it's the copy of when the original proposal came before you for the first developer, and this shows the development, and I'll pass it out in a minute through Aaron, so I don't have to jump over this. Great, thanks. You'll see up in the right-hand corner of the property, and you see it there, it's a fairly large trapezoid area. It was the original approval. And that also, there was a survey of that area. And that was supposed to be the easement pedestrian area that would provide for the viewing area. It actually, if you look at your maps, it extends into where the Phragmites had been. So it really provides for an area that doesn't serve any purpose because it's within the Phragmites. So ultimately, that was not what was approved. It was modified to be the one that is shown on this secondary plan, which came in the landscaping plan. Again, Aaron, I'm going to ask you to pass that out. And this up in the right-hand corner, again, generally in the same area, shows what is sort of like a lollipop that extends down in. I'm not quite sure why that had happened. This is the developer that was doing this. And it showed like a lollipop coming down, again, pretty close to the Phragmites. So I went out there, like I always do when I'm dealing with real estate properties, is to go take a look at this. And at first I thought that, that it would provide sort of a view. And I got there and I parked on the road and I sort of walked out there and I realized if you actually are standing down to where the viewing area is supposed to be, you're sort of face to face with the Phragmites. And the homeowners association has in fact put in the native vegetation. They've gotten rid of some of the invasives. There's the plan to come in November to continue with the Phragmites cutting, which over time will sort of bring it down. But even if you're at that level, you're really face to face with like 8-9 foot Phragmites. You can't see anything. If we pull it up to the area of the road, so there'd be like a 2x4 area where the signage would be there, you have a better ability to look out into the marsh. And with the commitment and the perpetual requirement to cut the Phragmites on our property, over time, that view will get better from the road. It should in time cut down there. Now, we don't have an agreement with the land trust. They didn't want to engage with us. Hopefully they on their own will do that. We certainly would be happy to work with them in the future. But at the moment, we don't have that. We only can deal with what's on our property. So the revised easement, which I sent to the town attorney, essentially modifies the existing easement to provide perpetual easement to maintain the sign and have it right at the edge there where the sidewalk would be at some point, and to also maintain the viewscape by continually trimming back the Phragmites as needed as the years go by. I noticed there was one letter on the document submitted from a person right here, a Miss Allen. I don't think they understand what we were asking for. They seem to be thinking that we're asking not to maintain the requirement to maintain the buffer and to do the reduction of the fragmites. That's not what we're asking for. It's simply just to pull the easement up and to put the signage there. Everything else in terms of the activities happening on the edge of the marsh would remain the same. I think maybe she just misread it. I'm not sure, but that's not really a pertinent comment. And of course, the Deep's comment is simply consistent with what they've done from the very beginning here. I'm not quite sure they've viewed this area. I'm not sure they've come down to look to see that, a parking space is really not workable here. Benches, again, nice concept if you're up on a big cliff and you could look out, but it doesn't serve any purpose. The area is, it is open, and it's a concern of the homeowners because, if it was allowed for people to go down there at nighttime, it's sort of hard to police that, and then they're behind their homes. So we think this is a good compromise, and I think that they've provided what is needed to make sure that there's a meaningful viewscape, and that we get better over time as the trimming occurs, and that the spirit and the intention of the CAM Act is met. Because it has to be, if you read through what I've submitted to you, it's got to be significant and meaningful. So to have, having a trail to nowhere or a place to look at a marsh that you can't see anything to really doesn't serve the purpose. I think this serves the purpose and balances the concerns of the homeowners as well. So we're happy to answer any questions and any technical things. I thought that I was here tonight, I thought we don't have a survey of the area because what we would anticipate is that if you were to approve this, it would be conditioned with us providing a survey of that area. So you have exactly where that is, in addition to finalizing the change to the easement, which would have to go through your town attorney. And I'm assuming your first select person has to sign off on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So, my first question is this, it's not the official surveyed site plan, but this is what you're proposing?
No, this was what was.
Could you pull up that? Is there anything to show
What it's going to be.
what it's going to be?
In the application, there was like just a little, I think there was a little sketch, the hand drawing of that.
It's on the Department of Transportation sidewalk plan. That was the most accurate survey. And then I highlighted at the very end of it. So what we're suggesting is at the very end of what DOT has given us that is supposed to come for the sidewalk,
Should be.
right at the end of it, going inward towards our property, because that would be on the state property, the sidewalk itself. So we'd go in and then across a couple of feet and back in. And I talked to Chuck Mandel, who is the civil engineer, and he said if you agree to that, that would be very easy for him to then do the survey of that area at the end. So see where it's yellow? We're suggesting to put the signage on our property. See where the property line is?
Oh, yeah.
And so much like when you walk on the green trail in Hammonasset, you know how the signage kind of sticks off the path? I was just kind of trying to mimic it. Do the same signage and off the path so that you could step over and see. We would maintain it on our property.
So the closer you get to the road, the better, because it slopes up to the road, so you
Right.
get a better view. And then Cindy, oh, sorry, Cindy's wife.
No.
Um,
That's a new one.
Possible.
Husband, well, it is 2024. No, sorry, you want it, but Cindy kept it off the state property. So it's right at the edge of the state property and our property, on our property for our maintenance, but you want it closer to the road because you're up the hill.
So was my question as well. So you're not looking to propose any public access on this property? The existing easement is 979 square feet of public access viewing area. And Jim, you said earlier it's a 2x4 rectangle.
It's about a 2x4
2 feet
rectangle.
by 4 feet,
Right.
just for the location of the sign, not for anyone. So you're relying on the state right of way
Correct.
for viewing.
And which will be the sidewalk that'll be there. Okay, you can see on here, so the outline of the original area, which again half the fragmites would be here, doesn't serve that purpose. And actually, I mean, even if you were to not approve this, we have to modify the the easement because what was attached to the actual easement is a description for this property, and that's not what you approved previously. It was sort of the lollipop. So it's actually about half the square footage. So either way, we have to sort of change it. And when we looked at this carefully, we realized, well, that lollipop doesn't serve any purpose. The purpose is to have viewing and information so people try to learn about the marsh once they can see it.
I guess my follow, this is the landscape design plan that shows the lollipop. It's
Correct.
not a Stevens and Associates
Correct.
engineered site plan.
Correct. Correct.
I believe that the language for the easement was based off of the approved site development plan.
That's probably correct. And that's why
Does that have, I have the old, the original site plan approval. I think that would be, well, it's not the original. The original is what we're looking at with that rectangle, which is the language in the easement.
correct.
There was a subsequent modification when Adam Greenberg came forward with that application. So I can pull that other site plan up just so you can confirm
That would be
whole
helpful.
area.
Any other questions from commissioners? There's a hand raised.
So,
Yeah.
Mike Dwyer, Cindy's husband. And shame on us because we're all adults and ignorance is not an excuse against violating a law. But in the contractual agreements we made with our developer, Adam Greenberg, there was no reference. There was the lollipop reference. There was no reference to the 971 square feet. So had we been smarter, better real estate investors, we'd have come to town hall and said, hey, I'm skeptical of my developer and the agreement he gave me and that I signed. But we didn't. So it was a complete surprise to us to see 1,000 square feet appear in our lawn that comes up to 30 feet from the front door. So just FYI, I'm not saying that's an excuse or a legal reason to,
It's part of the history.
but it's
Right.
part of the conversation.
Right.
Right. We thought there was gonna be a lollipop out by the sidewalk.
Carol, is there a sidewalk there now?
No.
Town is proposing to do.
No,
No,
it's not the
the
town. The
developer's
applicant, the developer is
Developer.
responsible
developer.
for installing that sidewalk.
Correct.
As part of the approval.
Oh, so the sidewalk's on your
The
property,
sidewalk is in the state right of way.
state right of way.
It's
Right.
not on their property.
So could you, John Morgan, can you explain, you said there's no land trust agreement. I thought you needed a land trust agreement to actually work on the Phragmites. Am I wrong about
On
that?
our land, no. We can work on the Phragmites that's on our property. We can't go on their property to take any off of their
It
property.
extends out into their.
No,
their
I
part of the
understand.
marsh.
The whole
Yeah.
idea when we approved this was that we would have open up a view to the marsh.
The
again.
marsh, yeah.
That was the original discussion, was to make it a more meaningful in order to modify the viewing area and make it still meaningful or more meaningful viewing area. That was the partnership with the land trust to try to do invasive management all the way down to the Tidal Creek.
So there is,
And that
there will
portion is
be an
not.
agreement with.
Well,
Moving
we will
forward.
certainly try to continue doing that, but at present, we don't have an agreement to go in there.
I can say that they told me that they have a plan to do it on their own, but they didn't want to do it with us because it was a piecemeal. They wanted to do the whole extensive, not just the area we were talking about. So I don't know their time frame or anything, but they were looking at coming up from down by Middle Beach Road and coming up on all of their land to do the, with using all habitat.
Oh,
So, us trying to make a deal with them was sort of taking a piece out of the puzzle, and so.
It goes deeper than that. So the head of the land trust owns all habitat. The bid to flatten all of the Phragmites was thousands of dollars. We paid a contractor that came out and did it on our property for $500 with state approved, the deep approved vendor. and the land trust didn't want to play ball if we didn't award them the contract. The Phragmites grows back, we're kind of experts now, in 6 weeks.
You will be even more so.
All right.
So, and the Phragmites been down once and is going to go down a number. The more invasive species, the knotweed, comes back in about 2 to 3 months. That's been knocked down 3 times already. So we've done our part in, attacking this beast, and
you've
we'll continue to.
planted the buffer that.
Planted the
was
buffer,
required.
just put some new lawn in. We're pushing back the knotweed. But by the way, the catch-22, John, if I can suggest, is if you don't get land trust to play ball, you don't lose the whole view. You still get about 60% of it because it comes out in kind of a finger, and you can still see the right side of it when we take all our stuff down.
Mhm.
But you wouldn't have 100% view unless the land trust agreed. By the way, it's a fairly thin section that's not on our property, so, it's not 20% of the Phragmites that we've flattened already and will do again this month. But, yeah, that's just the,
And I assume, this is Mike Bugda, I assume that the HOA is paying the fees for the people who take the Phragmite down.
Yes.
Okay. So it's distributed, the cost are distributed. So
Yes.
So can someone remind me what we wanted to put on the sign? What's the signage?
We submitted a suggested one. If you guys approve, we could go back and reword it too. But there was one that, I can look for a copy.
It's submitted actually in there. I can read it to you if you'd like real quick. It's, Fence Creek Marsh wetlands are some of the most valuable ecosystems on Earth. Our Fence Creek Marsh is a tidal creek. A tidal creek is a cradle of life. It is a habitat that hosts a diversity of wildlife. It filters the water through salt meadow, cordgrass, and Cartina spikegrass. It is a nursery ground for fish and shellfish and crucial to coastal resiliency. The blueback herring swim from Long Island Sound up Fence Creek to Hammond Pond. It is a giant sponge or reservoir offering protection from storm surges, flooding, and helps reduce beach erosion. It is the foundation of a complex web that sustains a healthy coastline. And you could, we could put on the signage, like, you could have pictures of, osprey and things like that.
How is it gonna be?
How big and how high?
It's not as big as the one at, I had a quote from the same vendor that did the one at, in Hammonasset. It's
You're talking
smaller.
about the one at the beginning of the.
Yes.
the
Greenway
Greenway
Trail.
Yeah, that one is very large, so we were thinking, I think she quoted like 12 by 18 and a wooden post, and so I think it stands up about the same height as the one there, which is about waist high, and it comes on an angle, so you stand and read it like a 45-degree angle.
It's 12 inches by 18
I
inches.
think that's
Okay,
that's
just
what it
want to
was.
make sure.
That's right. You don't need a lot of pictures of the creatures, I don't think either.
No.
Well, thank you for all the work that you've been putting into this. And I'm having a little trouble because we don't have the actual plan to review. And we just today, I think, received the letter, the sort of update from Deep,
Right.
again, emphasizing that they still are pretty dedicated to having a viewing platform and public access as per the Coastal Management
Of
Act.
some type.
So, any other questions or comments?
So just a dumb question on my part. You are not doing anything that would contravene or conflict with the covenants or obligations in your existing deeds today?
No, we're not. So I think, like, to address the DEP issue again, they've sort of said the same thing from the beginning. And I think you've approved what would be an easement to a viewing area that would have been right at the edge. So really, we're just pulling it up. Again, I don't think it's a meaningful easement if it doesn't serve the purpose, which is to allow the viewing. Again, the signs on our property, we maintain it. We maintain, cutting back the invasives, planting more indigenous species to sort of, restore that area there. And when the developer puts in the sidewalk, which is their obligation, in the public right of way. It sort of provides a means so that there's minimal liability all around for everybody, and yet it still serves the purpose. So I think that's, as I said in the submission, I think that's meeting correctly the Coastal Management Act. I don't think you're going to find anything new in the deep position from what they said in 23 and what they said back in 20 as well. So I don't think there's really any other
Is there
issues there.
room for a bench even in the 2x4 foot?
Well, the
area?
2x4 is really so that you can put the signage there. Again, the bench, if you sit down there, again, you're not gonna really see. I mean, it's not gonna work for that.
What is the 2x4 area? Is that a bump out on the sidewalk?
It's on our land, and that's where we would maintain the sign. The signage would be there.
So there's no public access on the property?
Well, except
You're
to,
simply putting the sign there so
well,
that someone.
except to the extent
can read it
that
from
the
right of way?
sign is there for the public to read, that, if they, there's sort of a public amenity that's there. I mean, it's on our land and we maintain it, but that's for the public. There's no easement for them to like walk onto the property because there's no need, because they'll be on the sidewalk when that's there. I mean, now they can walk, on the grass that's in the state right of way, which there's no distinguishing feature really between the state right of way and where our property is. It's just sort of lawn there right now. Well, there's the curb. Yeah.
So why couldn't we put a small bench in front of the sign? I don't understand.
I mean, you can physically do it, but I don't, to be honest, I don't see what that does in terms of viewing. I mean, it's not, once you sit, you've now lost another 3 feet from your ability to look out there with the Phragmites. I mean,
Let's someone sit and read the sign and.
Or
And that's-
bird watch?
watch.
I mean, we've talked
Yeah,
about
look
it, how great it is that Audubon is right there and the sidewalk will connect to across the street, to their walkways. So it's a connecting thing. Do you have any idea when the sidewalk will be installed?
September.
September?
They told us.
But we just
passed September,
but Now we're in we October. thought
September.
Yeah.
They might be using the same
Well,
contractor
probably
that
before
the
September
town's
is August
using for the other
before.
roads.
All right,
Maybe
so-
worth an invitation.
It's imminent.
Yeah.
To come and see
Can
you.
we get the developer to come in and explain why he's not doing this?
Sure.
That would be nice.
I mean, if you
Yeah,
feel,
so you
We're
don't
kind
have
of
to
getting
work
projects in town.
so much.
However, that's separate
I know,
from
yeah, I know, I just.
this specific request, but that can be a separate item.
That'd be nice.
as I mentioned, I think that if,
I brought a picture of the green trail, the bump out that I said, which is what I wanted to mimic, and it's angled, I don't know.
it's in the front.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
in
we
the
sent it with all of the papers,
Yeah,
but
several of
you
us
stand there and
bike
look
that
at
trail
it,
regularly.
That's nice, very nice.
And also I've kayaked, just full disclosure, I've kayaked up Fence Creek and I've seen how it's opened up. It's really, it's so much better. It's great. I wish that Land Trust could continue with the invasives that are there because it needs it.
I did find the original, or the site development plan
Mhm.
that mirrors the landscape plan, so I just wanted to show that so you can see what is required currently by the developer
Right.
to install this. And it is this bulb-shaped viewing area here with a bench and a public access sign is required in the easement documents. And as a condition, there were 4 conditions of approval in 2019 that related specifically to DEP comments and the public access that included that the applicant provide the riparian buffer planting and invasive species management
Right.
plan, which outlines the process for establishment and ongoing maintenance of the buffer as shown on the plans. It also requires that upon establishment of the riparian buffer, the boundary between the buffer and the maintained lawn area shall be delineated with appropriate boundary markers to ensure that the buffer area is permanently protected. It requires the public access viewing area to be identified with a public access sign. And it requires the easement for the proposed public access viewing area be recorded on the Town of Madison land records along with deed restriction to provide for public access to this area in perpetuity. Additionally, the deed restriction shall further require the views to the tidal creek be maintained in perpetuity through maintenance of the riparian buffer and ongoing invasive species management. So what's being proposed for invasive species management is a requirement of this permit as it exists today. So that's not a new addition.
Right.
Right.
To this.
Aaron, if I may, I think the only thing we haven't done before is having the public access sign. That's number 3. I don't think we have the sign up.
The viewing area is not installed.
No, but,
So none
well, the
of
viewing
that-
area is like just an area. I mean, it's not.
No, it was supposed to be a solid surface with benches.
Oh, okay. But the sign's not, that hasn't been in either.
No, it's not. And I don't know if that was an arrangement that the developer was waiting at the request of the homeowners to come forward and request. But it's a requirement at this time to be installed. Unless, of course, you modify the special exception and coastal act. I guess my only, there is, yes, to show the proposed public access or viewing area on a map that can be identified specifically, by meets and bounds on the easement area that, or the covenant, the agreement.
We certainly would, as I mentioned, we would certainly do that as a condition of approval because we'd have the surveyor go back out there and, delineate it and, spend the money on that, which we'd be happy to do if that's a condition of approval.
So at this point, it is a 2-foot by 8-foot rectangle.
2 by 4. 2 by 4.
Is that what
Yeah,
I'm
2 by
sorry.
4. 2 by 4.
Yes.
2 by 4. Correct.
Square foot, yes.
Yes, correct.
Square feet. Right, so it's an 8 square foot area as opposed to 900.
I guess,
979.
I guess I'm still not clear on what's being proposed. I guess the elimination of from the landscaping plan, the light bulb shape, the insulate, and that's it. So take that out, have the sidewalk finally installed, and put the sign up.
Correct.
Essentially correct, yes.
So that's completely counter to what you guys said again.
Right.
Right.
That doesn't, for them, it doesn't apply, so. You gotta figure something else out.
So again, what would be the challenge in putting a slightly bigger than 2 by 4 bump out? That could be delineated like the one at Hammonasset with some sort of fencing. I think that's what they have at Hammonasset, right? A nice little wooden fence.
Yeah, there's a fence there.
And you have the sign, you have the fence, you have the sign, and in
that's
front of the sign, you have a small little bench for people to sit and read the sign.
I think if you feel that's more appropriate, then
I think that potentially
Satisfies coastal management
the
act.
deep requirements.
Deep requirements. I mean, I think we understand putting it higher, elevating it that way and getting it as close to the state land as you can. That all sounds reasonable. But shrinking it down to just like a place to stand is not really, I don't think, the kind of viewing platform that was intended.
I don't understand.
It's
And-
more of an elimination.
Well, the other concern was people walking down property, near property, so you want to keep it closer to the road.
correct,
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying is that a bigger area by the road,
by the road,
By the sidewalk.
by the, where the
by the
sidewalk.
sidewalk, where the sidewalk's going to be.
And we'd like to see a plan, I think, too, just to know for sure what we're talking
What it's
about.
gonna look like.
I mean, 2 by 4 is, it's
Not too much.
like
So-
half this
So
table.
you would prefer to continue the hearing so we could submit that for the next?
I think that would be a good idea. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's
But
right.
a draw, I can ask a question, a drawn plan, we don't want to go and survey it if you're not going to accept it. We would survey the area for the easement chain modification if you approve it. But a drawing done, is that acceptable?
Like a conceptual drawing that would show an area with a bench, like, and space it out.
This is a site plan modification essentially associated with the special exception. So you do have the right to request
I
a
think we need to
modified
see what
plan.
exactly you're talking about, because we have seen several sketches and they're kind of changing it sort of back of napkin sketches.
Okay.
But I think I hope you're hearing from us sort of a positive response that getting it high up and as close to the state land is reasonable and understandable for sure. But just a slightly bigger area, I think, is needed to satisfy deep in the Coastal Management Act requirements.
Give us to next month, then I guess, and we'll try to get you something. That's all right.
It's gotta be, just slightly, it's gotta be something substantial that when you look at it, oh, this is the place to stand, sit, whatever.
And,
not
and they
just a
have
sign,
requested even a sign saying this is a public
Right.
viewing space. I think that, I don't know if it could be incorporated into the sign that would be educational overlooking the marsh. But just to
Be on the
acknowledge,
fence.
and then even, I don't know if you want some kind of division to keep people from walking down onto your yard. That makes sense.
All right, we'll work on it. Do you want to take other public comment or?
That's what I was going to tell you. We do have,
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
also
know
I
if there's
wanted to-
anyone in the,
I wanted to say that Janet
Audience.
Peckinpah has joined us, Commissioner Peckinpah has joined us. Hi, Janet. Thanks for being here. If we have any other questions.
no one in here. We have one online,
hand
Madam
raised.
Chair, Alex Province. Alex? Can you unmute?
Good evening. Sorry to, whoops.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Let me move the computer. I'm getting a weird echo, but
We're here twice. I'm not sure if that's why.
I moved away from my phone here. So if you look at the original map that has the lighthouse, or sorry, the light bulb shaped, it is further to the west than where the proposed sign tonight would be located. So part of the restraint is we don't want anything in front of us blocking our view. When this was approved and, began in 2016 with Plunkett and cluster housing, we were very concerned about how we would be impacted. And I'm Alex Province, 917 Boston Post Road. We're the historic brick house right in front of the general's residence complex, the cluster. So we followed along quite closely when this project was being proposed, as you can imagine. So the light bulb shape is further away from us, where the proposed sign today would be, which we find to be a wonderful compromise. The sidewalk terminates naturally there, which was part of the proposal, the approved proposal. A sign that goes slightly to the south would, and the improvements that the HOA has done have been just beautiful. If you are now suggesting that they put benches where the sidewalk ends, where they are proposing to do the sign, that is much different than what was approved originally back in 2019, which is, as you look on the map that Aaron was showing, is significantly to the west. And the problem with that is these poor people who bought these houses have this light bulb shape that comes right up to their house, 30 feet. Now they're stuck in a corner. If they move it, it's now may satisfy putting benches, but now you're putting it in front of us and blocking our view. And we would never have supported that. And that's going to be a conflict. So that is not the quick fix of saying, okay, let's put a sign at the terminus of the sidewalk. Incidentally, I'm with everyone. Why has the sidewalk not been built? We've all would have enjoyed using it 2 years ago, and there's still no sign of it being built. I think Call Before You Dig has come out so many times, they refuse to come out anymore to mark utilities. So the town, on a side note, really needs to get on the developer to get that done so that we can all use it. It's been several years now, 2+ years. So if don't go home tonight thinking that this is a fix. that you're going to put benches at the terminus of the sidewalk because it is not a fix for us. That's a problem. It needs to, and as proposed tonight, I think is a wonderful way to do it. The sidewalk would be there. You have a great view of the marsh. It looks like part of the Shoreline Greenway Trail that you don't need a bench. You're walking, you stop, and you read the sign and you enjoy the view that they've created. And as far as the Audubon shop, sure, that would be great for them because they're a business and maybe they want to go across the street and sell telescopes or binoculars. But we're residents, so that's right in front of our mailbox. It's right in front of our view that we've been enjoying. I've owned that house since 2001, grew up in Madison. So it's not fair to us. We've already paid enough as longtime residents, having all of these houses built in front of us. It's not fair to us to ask us to make any more sacrifices, especially if there are sacrifices that were not included in the original approved application in 2019. And but just since our neighbors are here, we love you guys and we love what Duo did, but not fair to us to move it in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe that would be helpful then to see where his house is relative. It's not on any of these plans.
Well, to that point, that's the value in having an updated site plan which shows the existing approved public viewing area and what is proposed, so you can see the difference
Correct.
in them.
Okay.
I think we all agree we need that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Should
I don't
I?
have anyone else online with
Okay,
their
any
hand
other
raised.
questions or comments? And in that case, do we need to
Need
make a motion to continue?
Continue.
I guess the one question is, you indicated a month. Jim, you were looking in not 2 weeks?
I don't think logistically we could have that plan put together in 2 weeks. That's what I'd have to say a month.
Okay, I think that's November 7th.
Thursday?
Yeah, I think that's the 7th.
That's right. The
I
first
just want
is
to double
Saturday.
check. Yes,
November 7th?
November 7th is your date.
So could I have a motion to continue this public hearing to November 7th? Bogdan, second. Reinhardt, any discussion? All in favor? November 7th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to pending applications and 24-29, 454 Horsepond Road. Again, at the request of the applicant, will be tabled to October 17th, 2024. Could I have a motion? Take that. And a second.
Second.
And then discussion in favor. Okay, so October 17th. Okay, next is 24-10, 6 Opening Hill Road, map 70 lot 1-1 to 1-14, zone RB1, owner applicant Emily Health Main Foundation Incorporated, special exception pursuant to section 5.4A and 3.4C of our zoning regulations for philanthropic and educational use of the property, which use includes arts, architecture, and other philanthropic and educational exhibits, meetings, tours, on-site residencies, events, studio, and collaborative space, applicant's administrative office, and a museum gallery store, all as more specifically and fully set forth in the statement of use and project description as amended, which is included with the application and on file with the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is our third meeting now of deliberations. The public hearing was closed August 19th, I think it was. And I want to remind everyone that the public hearing, August 15th was closed on August 15th. Therefore, the public can no longer participate. And furthermore, anyone who disrupts our deliberations will be asked to leave tonight. And with that, I'd like to confirm, Janet, are you staying for this? Are you with us? And have you had a chance to watch videos and read minutes and catch up?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you for confirming that. And since our last meeting on September 19th, I hope everyone had a chance to give a good thorough read to the facts and findings draft that we started to share at that meeting.
Yes.
Since then, we've had the opportunity to provide further input and update it. So I'm hoping that we can move to the conditions that are listed, if that's agreeable with everyone, and make sure that we're comfortable with the conditions. We've got two parallel drafts going at this point. I think it's, did you want to add anything else, Erin? to
Yeah,
summarize?
The biggest differences between the two are the commission was almost equally split with respect to allowing one larger scale event per year and a complete prohibition of those events. So that's really the main difference between the two drafts, was to kind of structure it that way. The other changes from last meeting, your conditions mirrored all of the conditions that the applicant had submitted in the proposal based on public feedback and recommendations from consultants. And some of those had been consolidated to shorten the number of conditions. And also you had discussion on numbers of gatherings, whether to allow 4 per month or reduce that number. And one of the things I looked to help kind of limit the extent of activity on the property was to go back to that modeled calendar that the applicant had proposed and simply adopt the amount of days that they had proposed to be used for meetings, gatherings, events, and then of course the other condition eliminates the events. And so that was shown in, I'm just looking at the events one right now, number 15, where it says as modeled by the applicant's planner, 1 year example is the title of that. Program days for meetings, gatherings, and events will not exceed a total of 62 days per calendar year. And so that's what was proposed by the applicant in that calendar, capping off the extent of activity. And then the special language to allow for 1 event per calendar year is number 16 here, that says the occurrence of events as described in the application documents shall not exceed 1 per calendar year. The foundation shall engage an independent consultant specializing in acoustic measurements to monitor noise levels at the perimeter property lines of the site during this event. The resulting measurements shall be provided to the zoning enforcement officer within 10 days of said event, and this information will be available for review by the commission. So that tried to link the applicant's proposal of capping a decibel level to something that can be documented for your review. Of course, the model that doesn't have events eliminates and instead has language that prohibits all events over 25 attendees. And then the last that caps the extent of usage of the property, I guess you'd say, is number 17 in here, that again references this 1 year planner example. And this is specific to the program residencies, where they have the staff residency, those artists in residency, and the experienced guests. Those are the 3 components of the program residencies. And that would allow residencies up to a total of 150 days per calendar year. And experienced guests, those coming, for those weekend type stays, shall be limited to 12 days per calendar year with a maximum of 2 people per stay. So that I kind of went that way, looking at their language as opposed to limiting the number of, the gathering is still capped at 4 per month as the applicant under that language. And it did not limit the number of meetings per day. However, the language that came back from the commission and came from the applicant was that meetings should be staggered at least an hour apart to avoid, people coming and leaving at the same time. And that gatherings or events should not occur on days with meetings.
So that's all in here.
And that is in the language as well.
Thank you. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
John Morgan.
I still struggling with all this. It's like Venn diagram of who can be and how many can be and when they can be. I really would like to see us just simply cap this at a number of individuals at the site at any one point in time. And I would say somewhere between, we cap it at 10 to 12 with a exception for 2-3 gatherings a month, up to 25. And that's 25 people. And that's 25 people on site. And when I don't even really want to call them gatherings. It's how many people are there. That's what's going to cause the noise. That's what's going to cause the traffic. And that's what's going to make it much easier for the town to monitor, for neighbors to understand what's going on there. This just, having all these conditions is just so confusing. I don't know how the Tremaine Foundation remembers this.
A lot of these conditions, I think, they proposed,
I understand that.
so I don't think they have a problem with it. I think that, the option with no events keeps it down to 25 people.
But what's the harm in just, it's 10 to 12 people can be on site. And 2-3 times a month, you can go up to 25. That's simple. It's easy to understand for us. It's easy to understand for the Tremaine Foundation. It's easy to understand for the neighbors.
So you're talking about a considerable reduction in what would be allowed?
Significant.
Well,
Number of
John,
conditions.
I agree with you, but I have a question on the inclusion of the draft plan they gave us as one of the conditions. Does that mean that is the maximum number of times a year that
People are on site.
people are on site?
Correct.
So 62 days out of the year, the other 303 days, there's no one on site other than staff
Or residencies.
or residents.
So there is a possibility, yes, and that's what's shown on that calendar, is that there's a portion of time that may not be having any activity.
Okay, honestly, I like that because it's more restrictive than what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how to defend that condition and pointing at things in the evidence conditions that support that, other than it was a draft proposal as an example given by the applicant, not what they said they would do, would say, this is what we would do year one, maybe, kind of.
So we put it in as a condition to make it.
I know, but I'm not being drilled into us, point to the evidence in the entire package that says this is something that we can pull out and say, yes, this makes sense. This is defendable when it gets litigated. I don't know how to defend taking a draft and saying, well, great, if you said this is your draft for year one, we'll make it forever.
Wasn't the draft an example of the expectations for running?
Year one. What the way they said,
They specified it as year one or as an example?
if I remember correctly, yes. So the implication, the intention to that is that this is year one. And then we'll build from there. That's the way it's always been. Start small, but the opportunity to grow. And that's what the operational plan was supposed to do, was allow them to start small. And as long as they're underneath the guidelines of the maximum number of the operational plan, the following year, they can bump it up. So if they did one gathering a month in year one, they could ask 4 gatherings a month the following year.
And we can turn it down.
No, that's not what it says. It says
Yeah, I
it
think-
must be approved if it's below the maximum set. There's no way for us to turn it down unless they violated a condition.
4 gatherings per month would then, if that's the desire, then that would simply limit the number of on-site meetings
Well, no,
that
so I
occur
guess-
to maintain that number. That, the document that I looked at for that, and I'm happy to pull that up, is the presentation from the applicant's rebuttal, the slideshow presentation it was on, which says an illustration of an annual operating plan.
That's an illustration, that is not an operating plan, it's an illustration of something they could do. But they're asking for unlimited meetings, 3 to 4 gatherings a month, that's what they're asking for approval. With the example being, this is where we think we might start.
They're not asking for unlimited meetings per month. They have, so
Yeah,
many days, per calendar year, which works out to approximately 17% of the.
Yeah, that's.
And then later though, we do talk about, if there are 2 meetings in one day,
Yeah.
they're separated by an hour.
But-
So I don't think that's the same.
Just to clarify, I just want to clarify, you said meetings, and Bob said gatherings. There is a significant difference in the way the language is written. Meetings are unlimited, gatherings are not. So we really should talk about them independently of each other.
Good point.
Great. I can stick with meetings.
I
So-
can pull up that calendar if you want to see what the example
Yeah, no,
was
I know
that,
what it looks like.
that came, if
I guess my
anybody
point
hadn't
is this,
seen it.
how do we defend using that as the limit to what they're allowed to do? They presented, what did they call it?
It's a 1-year example, 6 Opening Hill Road planner, 1-year
So
example.
they presented a
Summary.
1-year calendar as an example of what they might do.
But for all those things, for gatherings, events, and meetings.
Yes.
Correct.
It is a 1-year example of a schedule.
Not a first year. So it's just a
The
one-year
first year.
example. It's an
It's a
example of
one-year
what their
example.
expectations are.
How do we defend saying, great, thank you for the example, that's the most you can do?
The applicant has proposed
They
this.
said that.
Used it as a 1-year example with the conditions being in the operational plan that they can increase the number of meetings as long as it's underneath the level that is approved.
You can change the number, if you don't have a problem with the number of meetings, you can remove meetings from a condition of the cap. I think what this was
And we
trying
can say-
to do was to show how much activity the foundation anticipates will be at this property.
And we just,
Any-
sorry, we
Pull
say
it up.
will not exceed a total.
Right.
That's the condition, right? That's the condition we wrote.
Here's the
I
page.
don't know how to defend that, other than saying thank you. As for an example, we like your example, that's what it would be in perpetuity. We will always only have 62 days of meetings a year. I don't know how to defend that.
If it comes back and an applicant would like to have or increase the number of meeting dates beyond that, or, or gather, it's essentially, if you have the 3, it's gonna be number of meetings that would increase as opposed, number of gatherings are capped, or if they were capped at
So,
4.
okay, then it gets this, how did we defend capping the number of days in the year they can have someone on site to 62, other than saying that was your example?
This is the applicant proposed this to you and gave it to you.
And they're submitting every year, correct?
Let me
If
throw
an
something
applicant
out here.
wants to
I've been
come
very
back-
quiet on this whole topic. Can I say some Bob O'Connor? Okay, I think what's troubling for us here, at least for me, is that I think the goal of the Tremaine Foundation is that this is going to be wildly successful. That people are going to love to come there, they're gonna, and it's gonna be wonderful. They're gonna, the development, if they get the place fixed up, success. I don't think they're going to come back and say, well, 2 or 3 years ago, but look now, there's all this demand where the neighbors, on the other hand, would prefer nothing. Now, the neighbors may be a little precious at times as far as what they're willing to put up with noise at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so and so. But still, it is a residential neighborhood with folks buying in there with an understanding for all kinds of reasons that it would be. So I wonder, so this really troubles me, but I don't know what to do with it, by the way, but nevertheless, okay. A second thing, do we, the Planning and Zoning Commission, want to get into the business of every year looking at an entity and approving their plan and how many meetings with 12 people and 14? I don't know if that's where we want to go as a Planning and Zoning Commission, to be every year coming back. I certainly don't want us to be micromanaging this foundation as far as telling them in detail what they can and can't do. So the only other comment I'll make, I may be a little less disturbed than some of you about having a small number of meetings with small numbers of people. I do think, though, that the gala, the big event, is not consistent with the neighborhood, because you may say that you're not going to allow people to park there and so, but I think folks don't want to take a shuttle to a gala. So that, to me, I would just say no. I would go with the no meetings option. But anyway,
No
something to
events.
think about.
No events.
No event. That's it. I have to get these unusual terms down. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but this is difficult because I want to be fair. We all want to be fair to everybody.
Well, that's how I feel. And I understand.
I can't hear him.
My thought that everybody has, especially the neighbors concerned about it. I'm empathetic to that.
Excuse me, our microphone is this way, so if you can either speak into the microphone.
The problem I have is that there is no empirical evidence that tells us it's going to inflict a problem to the neighbors. We have no evidence that it will. We're only concerned that it could. So that's why I thought we should try one. We look at it in 1 year. If it is a problem, we deny it going forward. I don't want to get into the business of doing this every year either, but I think I want to see a track record of how it is working or not working. And we direct it accordingly based on the evidence we find over time.
I think different people will have different definitions of what working means.
Well, we define that. We define it collectively.
John, did you want to add anything?
So, Bob, I think the answer to your question regarding the 1 year example, how do we defend it? I mean, the short answer is that's what they led us to believe that they want. Right? We've got the papers they submitted. That was their example. What else can we assume except that that's what they want? So I mean, I see no problem in if that's reasonable in improving that. As far as the other issue between Bob and Michael, right? So what you're really talking about is the 150 or not the 150.
Correct.
That's the other issue for us to decide.
Correct.
That's it. Correct.
But on number 16, I think the short answer is that's what they're requesting. And I think that aligns well with what we're trying to do, right? Which is
I get it, yeah, I like limiting it to 62 days usually, it's much more restrictive than what I thought. I'm just afraid it would get kicked out because I don't see any evidence supporting it consistency. Example, my interpretation is this is an example of what we want to start. But we're asking for unlimited meetings. We're asking for, their application says, we're asking for unlimited meetings, 3 to 4 gatherings a year, 3 to 4 gatherings a month, and 3 to 4 events a year. They're asking for that, with this being an example of a first year, when they get going. No full year programming anticipated for 2026 or 2027. The implication is this is that schedule for that year. My interpretation is this is how we start, and they keep going. I'm fine with this, but then I also want to limit how many meetings, how many gatherings, and no events. We do that,
Nowhere in here do we say unlimited meetings.
nowhere in here do we say limited.
We do, we say,
No.
I'm looking at the without events version here.
I know, I understand, yes, Carol, you're right.
As modeled by the
Bill, I'm thinking,
guests will
Bill,
not exceed a total of 62 days for meetings,
I got it, I got it.
gatherings, and experiences.
I read it.
So that's
and
limited.
it belts and suspenders. When that gets kicked out, we can say no more than 2 meetings a day, and then we still have some backup on mitigating the impact on the game. Because the analysis is when they threw out during one of the meetings that the traffic guy said something about a 3-home development could be put on that lot. And he threw out how many, he threw out that there would be 10,000 trips a year generated from 2 to 3 single-family homes. That's the equivalent of a 12-person meeting every day. Number of trips. So if you're saying, okay, if they just want to sell it and put 3 homes on it, it's 10,000 trips a year. That's like having a meeting every day. It's not going to be 12 people every day, or maybe you need a little more. So I thought, happy with 1 meeting a day. 2 could work. I prefer 1.
And
But
there'll be
then
a lot
you're
of days with
mitigating-
no meetings.
I know, but the idea is this, it's a contract, you write the contract for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario would be unlimited meetings unless we, we could have 12, 10-minute meetings if we wanted to. It's a worst case scenario, this is the contract, so we have to anticipate what's the worst that could happen and make sure it doesn't. So if 1 meeting generates enough traffic to replicate a 2 to 3 home residents on that site, then that's what the neighborhood could anticipate being acceptable. That's how I got to that.
So in number 12, we say in no event may the maximum number of uses exceed the number allowed per this special exception.
You're on the with events.
Yeah,
Without
with you, but
events. Yeah, without events.
I'm with you, so if I'm
So
looking
doesn't that
at
satisfy your concern that they're just gonna want more and more and more?
even as a backup system. My fear is that this gets, it's litigated.
Do you want to
And
add any language to
I
it
would
to
like
strengthen it?
the idea would be to limit the number of meetings in any given day in addition to the 62.
We limit, I think, does it limit to two per day with an hour
Number-
between?
Elimination.
Number 20 on the without condition says programming shall be scheduled such that meetings and gatherings do not overlap with each other. Additionally, meetings that occur on the same day shall be scheduled at least an hour apart to prevent overlap in traffic entering or exiting the site and overlap in on-site parking. At no time will a meeting occur on any of the 4 days per month when a philanthropic educational gathering will occur. So it allows for more than 1 meeting in a day as long as there's space
Yep.
for 1 hour apart and no gathering or meeting would occur.
I should address your traffic concern.
Yeah,
You can have 6 meetings in one day.
I think it's unusual that that would happen.
I get it, I agree with you completely, but that's not what, I don't know 10 years from now who's gonna be there, because they could sell it to a different foundation.
I get your
So I
point.
just wanna put it out, and it'll never
But
happen.
if you're.
Their
concerned-
calendar, Bob, Robert, their calendar doesn't indicate that.
Yes, I know. I accept that. I just don't accept that that's the calendar they intended to be forever.
Any applicant that receives a special exception approval or site plan approval, just as you saw at the previous public hearing, has the opportunity to come back and seek a modification and go through the whole process again. But what you limit would be what stands on the land records and runs with the land
But-
unless that is then
The applicant
modified.
also has, as we've learned, the ability to go to the court and say this was an arbitrary decision from the commission, not based on any evidence. This is an example, not what we proposed, and that can get kicked out. If that happens, then it goes straight back to the as many meetings as they want. throughout the year because there's no limitation in our approval other than this, other than the calendar on the number of meetings.
So are you concerned that they might have like lightning round meetings and have 6 in a day? Is that?
It's highly unlikely. I just don't
I mean,
want to
this,
allow.
we've said it will not exceed a total of 62
And
days.
if that gets thrown out,
Why would it get from it?
because I think we have no justification.
It's
for putting
based on
it in.
safety, traffic,
52 days,
So
no arguments,
and
traffic.
time of day that these happen. You know, there are a lot of features that carry with that. I'm just not understanding why you think this is such a problem.
I don't know where to look in the record to support this as a condition, other than they said this is an example.
The purpose of them submitting that calendar was to give us a sense of the usage of it.
Right.
That was their purpose. And it's an example, not a first-year operation calendar.
Example, right, and in the operational plan, it says they are allowed to come back and increase the number of everything they do, as long as it's under the cap for each of those types of activities, events, gatherings.
your condition would override
That.
that with a capped number of
Yes.
programs. So if you were within that 62 days programmed and you hadn't put those on your calendar and something comes up and it's still within the 4 gatherings per month and it doesn't occur on a meeting day, then yes, there's a possibility to add that one.
So then there will be no harm in us including condition that limits the number of meetings to no more than 2 a day.
You need to justify
I
that
can
in the
justify
record.
that.
And so
I
that's
can
where.
justify that more than it.
Right, so, but in the findings, that's where I wanted to direct you, because you have findings regarding traffic. So you have to cite, your conditions need to be based on some finding and evidence.
Yes,
So the traffic on page 6, that traffic, you know, the 2 paragraphs on the traffic. The first paragraph goes through the commission acknowledging traffic concerns associated with the proposed development and the width of Opening Hill Road and the conversations of the narrowed shoulder in Guilford and conversations with the tree warden and the Guilford town engineer. And the next paragraph is with respect to traffic generation from the proposed development. Mr. Sullivan utilized industry standard data and projected future traffic volumes while performing future condition analyses. The proposed site intersections will operate at a level of service A during all scenarios of
Yes.
meetings, gatherings, and events for peak hours, and no impacts to traffic levels of service are expected to be caused by the proposed development. And again, several recommendations were made in the report with those mitigation steps on Opening Hill.
Again, read it all multiple times, and I can't argue that I have to accept that the road can handle the volume of traffic. That's the evidence. However, there's the parts of this is section 4.4B, 4.4C, 4.41 and 4.42 all speak to the need for requested exception to be congruent with neighboring properties, comprehensive plan, traffic, and public health, safety, and convenience, among other areas listed. So there's some squishy things there, but it's about how it fits within the neighborhood. That's the whole point of the special exception. The substantial increase in traffic resulting from an unlimited number of meetings allowable each day would violate this requirement. A limitation on number of meetings is required. Days suggested no more than 1 meeting a day is acceptable. If you look at the subdivision of 3 homes, we can talk about having 2, but the idea is this. Yes, the roads can handle it. That's not what this neighborhood is. It's a single-family home residential neighborhood not intended to have that volume of traffic. We need to keep the volume of traffic consistent with having homes. I don't know if 3 homes were appropriate on that lot. I'll accept it as is. If big enough, probably fit them on there. You get 2 acres each. Probably can only get 2 because of some of the wetlands, but let's go with 3. If you have 3 homes, we should limit the traffic to what 3 homes we generate.
Yes.
I'm comfortable with that. That's 1 meeting a day, based on what they presented them. 10,000 trips for a 2 to 3 home development. 12 in and 12 out, that's 24. 24 times X is greater than 10,000. That's my justification. I can defend that. I'll bring out the math part, I can defend it.
So the special exception use of philanthropic organization is in our regulations for residential areas, and it doesn't has to equal the equivalent of a
It has
residence.
to, we are supposed to
It can be-
review it for special exception to make sure it fits with the neighborhood. That's what it says. That's why it's a special exception.
Right, but that doesn't mean it has to be the equivalent of 3 residences.
That's how I look at it. It has to fit within the neighborhood.
I mean, that's a sort of strict reading of it maybe, but because it includes churches and schools.
Churches are different. Churches, this is not a church. This
I'm
is
just
not
trying to say
defending-
that as a special exception, this use is in our regulations for residential areas.
That's why you can't say it's allowed.
And in a way, it might be better that it's in an RU1, which has larger lot sizes
Problem.
and
Agreed.
more tree buffers as a result that, would help reduce the noise or even, we hope the neighborhood won't even be aware of what's going on. Okay, you're gonna be asked to leave if there's an outburst like that again. I'm sorry, but we're trying to work through this for your benefit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Everyone, take a deep breath. We're gonna take a break. We're trying to work it out among ourselves. We're doing our best to represent the entire town of Madison. This is a special exception. This is deliberation. No, you are not allowed to talk now. I'm sorry.
It's not about this, it's
Okay.
about
We're gonna
disrespect
take
for
a
the
break.
Jewish holiday. Today is the holiest day of the year,
All
and
right.
shame on you for the disrespect.
I'm sorry if that's been a problem.
Would you do
for
this
you.
on Christmas Day?
No.
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 Would you do this on
Okay,
New Year's
excuse
Eve?
me,
No.
Mr. Katz.
Please, this is the holiest day of the year. Do you have no respect for the Jews?
The town has regular business hours. The commission follows the guidance of FOIA for public meetings and is in
Were schools
compliance
closed?
with that. It is not the school calendar in which the town offices operate.
So the town offices.
You are disrupting the meeting currently.
I'm afraid we're gonna have to ask you to leave. We've warned you over and over again, and with all respect.
You are so disrespectful. I hope you
Okay,
burn
we're
in
gonna take a
hell.
break until we have.
Yeah.
You don't
It's
listen to
time,
us?
it's time to leave.
Good, call the cops. Go ahead, call the police. Tell them I'm Jewish.
I just wanted to talk.
No, we'll need to take a
I
brief
didn't realize it was
recess.
a holiday.
Yeah, we're gonna take a recess.
And it was
Let's-
too
let's
soon,
break
we couldn't
for like
postpone it
10
because
minutes.
we were
We'll come back at
losing
8:30.
before that.
Thank
I know you last week, but like, this is wrong. I get it, but we couldn't change it. We can't change the date because we made the notification.
Thank you for the acknowledgement, I
really-
appreciate
I
it.
was really upset when I saw what the date was.
I know.
I even tried to figure out how big. Yeah, I'm just so,
And I'm fine with it.
No.
I'm not speaking for the commission.
I don't
Your-
expect you
your
to. Excuse me,
behavior
I'm
Wait,
talking.
let me just talk to him. Let me
Is
just talk.
unacceptable
I know.
to tell a chair to burn in hell.
I get
Yeah.
that.
This is unacceptable behavior in a
And you
public
are
meeting.
unacceptable.
No, just-
You
just-
quoted in the newspaper that this has been approved.
Don't talk to the newspaper.
I'll show you the article. You were quoted.
Okay, I'm going to
But just so you know,
request.
Thank you.
I really do. I
appreciate it.
apologize, but I couldn't do anything about it.
No, thank you
We're
very much.
not
I
making
appreciate
any progress here. You're not allowed to speak to the commission.
Don't say some future improvement. Thank you, state, travel, the town.
Yeah.
I don't know if you proved it.
Hey. And it's in my neighborhood, right? It's a residential neighborhood. Goes down the highway. Take Route 1, wherever you go. Who is this? Okay, and there's a zoning officer.
This is Rachel. Oh, great. Oh, man. So the watch. Okay.
April 15th. Oh, you've reached your 140 page. You're flawless for the next.
Yeah.
I'm counting.
Oh, well, I think we're getting that.
It's 6,000 square feet. Oh, that giant room's a library. It's a weight room. It's a computer room. It's a family. It's only 2 bedrooms. And over the bedrooms.
I gotta get used to that.
Oh, I don't know what. Listening. I don't know, I just looked in here, they just threw someone out in the meeting. Sit down on religious. Police station's right there. It's 100 feet away. Yeah, you can pick it up.
So.
I'll work with you here. Let's see what they've done with this.
Yeah, it's still, I'm much better than my
Sure. 24 people. State health department, that's the law. Not some well where you did a water test 3 years ago. The state health department will demand that water supply provided by Connecticut Water Company. That water supply is developed by Connecticut Water Company. They'll have 2 wells, generators, water tests every 3 months.
What's the score, guys? I assume that's what we're looking at.
I can close that door if you'd like to begin
What's the
again.
score? What?
0-0.
0-0.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Right, 8:30, but if everyone's ready.
Did you break till 8:30?
I did say 8:30 for our break, but yeah, if everyone's ready, maybe we can continue the deliberations.
Mike mentioned that.
I unpaused for you.
Okay, thank you, Erin. All right, so we're making some progress.
So let me recap my position. The limitation, I understand the point about using the example calendar as a condition and trying to keep that as the maximum number of meetings in any given, maximum number of days that a meeting or gathering can occur in any given year. I accept that. In addition, I'd like to add the condition that no more than 2 meetings can occur in any given day. And that way, I think we cover all our bases. Traffic's not an issue. The gatherings can't happen on the day of the meetings. The gatherings have the same impact as the meetings as far as traffic goes. There's only so many parking spots. And they're gonna use probably the shuttle anyway.
So I'm looking at the draft without any of the big events.
Right.
Number 20 talks about programming and meetings occurring on the same day. That they should be 2 hours, at least an
Right.
hour apart. Would that be the appropriate place then, I
I
think?
think so, and then no more than 2 meetings.
To add no more than 2 meetings per day?
I agree that would be the most appropriate place if the commission is in consensus for that. I'll add that in.
We add that to both.
Well, you're gonna end up with one.
We're gonna have to make a choice between one or the other, so
Okay, we
that's
haven't gone.
our next big step. But
For now, I'll add it to both.
so you add it to both.
Okay.
I think does that satisfy you, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, good. I
And
think
that's
that's
not-
reasonable, because I can't really see that there would be many more than 2 per day anyway, so that's something like it's.
And that's not in conflict with anything in the calendar.
No.
Okay.
I have
well,
a
let's see.
suggestion for a clarification on number, I guess the without events, number 18. This is the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation staff shall be required to be in residence when program residencies and experienced guests are at the facility.
Yes.
It should say that maybe at least one member of the staff should be. Do we want to require the entire staff to be there?
That wasn't the
I figured it
intent
wasn't the
of
intent,
that
but read it.
condition.
Just
It
what it
was,
says
the
it
staff
was
will be
what
there.
the applicant proposed, yes.
Cross off the.
Yeah,
Say a staff member.
A staff, just take some staff.
or at least one.
Yeah. Make it just,
And Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation staff member shall be required to be in residence
Yeah.
when.
That's fine.
So that brings me to another question on how are we actually counting the numbers of these events? So the way I'm looking at these, a meeting could potentially is a meeting 12 people and that's it? Or is a meeting 12 people who were invited to the meeting, does not include staff or people who are already there, program residents or people actually doing programming for the meeting? How are we, where's the limit on that? What's the understanding around those numbers? Gatherings the same way. I mean, gatherings you could.
So number 20, meetings and gatherings do not overlap with each other.
You're talking about the number of people?
Number of people.
So on page 4 of the findings, what the applicant requested
Exactly.
is-
If you read that, it's
Right.
12 people. but then-
invitation only or by prior appointment for up to 12 persons.
And so does that exclude staff? Does that exclude kitchen support, facility support? Does that exclude people who are on site for residencies?
I thought we already discussed that. I thought we said that 25 people plus staff and.
That's the
That's a
gatherings are
gathering
25.
Meeting, come on, meeting.
Gatherings, I have the same question for gatherings. It's 25, it just says it's specifically
The way
excluding foundation staff and program staff.
It wasn't specified what was used.
At the last meeting, we were discussing that, whether the 12 was inclusive of staff or, and the 25 was inclusive or not.
No,
The-
it says, it
The
says,
application states it's 25 guests.
Right.
it says here 25 persons in attendance excluding foundation
Right, that's
staff.
what the application says, and then we started discussing, is that the appropriate number? Should we include staff in the total number?
Well, are we also counting, are there program residencies, are they counted in that number also? Are they in
There-
addition?
There was language that spoke to that in 21 about more for parking management purposes. Where meetings and gatherings, staff shall be required to manage on-site parking. Hold on. Parking for some larger meetings may require that residents or staff be located in the auxiliary gravel lot in the back to free up spaces in the main parking area. And then it said parkings for gatherings that exceed the number of on-site spaces shall be staged off-site and utilize the shuttle service.
That doesn't say
So it-
anything about the number of people who are on site.
Well, it also says excluding that these gatherings with the 25 exclude the staff and programming staff. And it clearly says that they aren't talking, they're talking, the 25 are just these guests who come for gatherings, meetings, events.
Right, that's what the applicant has requested.
Right, correct.
It's clear. Yeah, it's saying 25 guests plus staff.
Plus whatever, there's no top.
I know that, and that's where we were at last meeting, was do we come up with a number of total people to be there at any time? Or meetings like that, and
Let's limit it by the number of people, not by what kind of event it is.
what they do.
Well, it's limited in some regard by parking, but we are keeping an option for shuttles if the gathering exceeds the number of parking spaces.
There are times where the residencies may overlap, that there may be people in residency, so there may be vehicles for that.
Let me throw out something
So
too.
then
I think we have a problem on the operational definition of a meeting. Clearly, I think if 11 outsiders were there, that would count as a meeting. We talk about, right? You don't have to have 12 to have it count.
You can have
But,
You can have two people.
so you have two staff people get together. Is that a meeting that counts as
Yeah.
limited number of meetings
Yes,
or
a
not?
board meeting can be a meeting, that I believe was in the testimony.
So two people
From
counts
Ms.
as a
Magic.
meeting. So boy, they better be certain not, two staff people better not get together, or since they only have a certain number of meetings,
I
they're in trouble.
Well, it excludes them. It's not talking about the staff.
The staff doesn't count on the number?
No.
Okay, but
But don't we?
you have two people come in to meet with the staff person. Is that a meeting?
The question is, I think, do you want to cap anyone assisting, on catering services or things of that nature, right? John, within the maximum number
I
of
want to
people?
cap it at a specific number of people on site at any given time. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care if they're mowing the lawn. I want to cap it at a certain number of people. Just simplify it. This, look at this.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
And John, what was your proposal?
I went at it similar to what Bob, I thought this is a residential area and same idea. They put in 2 or 3 houses. You're gonna have a normal 10 to 12 people on site at any one time. And then, as with any neighborhood, there's bigger gatherings. You limit those to 2 or 3 a month, 25.
But we don't do that at your house today.
And also, they're not going to have full occupancy throughout the year.
I know that. It's just, we don't have a top end limit on it. That's what
What does that look like, John, if you have 8 people in residency? Or a meeting of 12 people, or a day when there is a gathering with 25 people? So you haven't accounted, would you assume 5
If there's 8 people in
support
residence.
staff, like what
if-
would that look like?
If there's
for a
8 people
number?
in residence, then they can have 2 more staff people on, if we limit it at 10. Oh,
I just want to say again, we don't have to make it the equivalent of one residence.
I'm not making it equivalent of 2 or 3 or more like 3.
Well,
Then apples and oranges, you know,
What are?
houses and this particular Tremaine Foundation location. They're not the same animal, not the same species. It can be an unfair comparison.
It's in the same structure.
It's in the same region.
This is a house, it's a structure. The same is
There's multiple.
my house or your house. It's a house.
It's
but this is a
multiple
special
structures.
permit to allow, that allows the use.
I was trying to understand the analogy,
I understand, I'm with you.
and I didn't understand the analogy. But so I guess what I'm hearing, the understanding is that these all build on each other. So you could have 8 people in residence. You could have a gathering of invited 25 people. You could have 4 or 5 staff people. You could have 5 to 10 kitchen and facility staff all at the same time. Is that what we're saying?
If you look at the calendar, I mean, I guess that,
Don't go to the calendar. I'm just
But
trying to.
it's an
I'm just
example
trying
of-
to understand what our limit is. That's all I wonder. If you're saying you don't want to put a limit in, well, just say that. I think there should be a limit.
Limit on what?
The number of people.
Number
on
of
site
people, not number of
on
meetings.
site at
Yeah.
any given
At
time.
any time.
Number of people on site at any given time.
Right. Number of meetings, that just doesn't exist.
No,
A
that's-
staff person says, the caterer, let's get together Tuesday.
Doesn't matter.
That's a meeting.
But that's their call as to what they want to call a meeting. My purpose is they can't have but these 12 people meetings if they want. So we just want to limit
Regardless
that.
of the number, right.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
They invite 5 people, 2 people, I don't care. I just want to make sure that the upper end does not impact the neighborhood. And so I think to John's point, I understand it, is there a number?
How do we pick a number?
well, that,
How do we-
a meeting and a gathering isn't proposed on the same day.
Right.
So you're not adding those together.
That's good.
So the worst case scenario is a gathering
Parking lots.
and 8 residents
Right.
on the property, so that's 25 plus 8. And then if there was some type of support staff for that gathering of 25 people.
Right, that's one way to
That's,
do
I
it.
think, the way the current conditions are structured, that's the max that would be on the property at once.
But that unknown is the support, the administrative staff, the support staff.
Right.
There's no, we need to cap that somehow. Don't
But
we?
John, wouldn't it be almost better to say, you know, while they have so many people in residence, there are no meetings? Or wouldn't it be easier to do it that they can have people in residence at the same time they have a gathering or a meeting or an event?
I guess.
So again, that's limiting how many people are on the property.
In my mind, the simplest approach is, here's the number of people that can be on site. I don't care what you're doing.
But
I don't care if you're meeting, I don't care if you're gathering. This is the number of people that are on site.
What is that number?
And how do you pick a number that's not impactful?
How did we pick 10? How did they pick 10 or 12?
That was their suggestion, not
Right.
ours.
So we'll go with 12 and 25. And give it for some, maybe up to 5 staff.
But that just sounds arbitrary.
It is arbitrary.
So the,
5 staff would be arbitrary. The number is-
Well, 25 people at a gathering is arbitrary.
It's a guideline.
The limit in front of us, you're right, it's stacked. So there's a little bit of an unknown quantity of number of people, that's right. But the limit in front of us is 25 people as guests.
Right.
Or fewer. That's what's in front of us. And it's in front of us because that's what the applicant is putting in front of us. So we can, I guess, try to reinvent the wheel here and come up with some other number, but as you say, it's arbitrary. It's just inviting further, basically inviting.
And the
litigation.
unknown is the number. of
So
staff.
the question in front of us is 25 or fewer guests is really the question in front of us tonight. And if the answer is that that's too many, it should be 12 or fewer, well, okay, that's different.
Why?
And then the question is why, right? You got to connect it to something. Otherwise, as you say, it's arbitrary. So on the larger events for 150, the connection was noise nuisance. I think that will hold up. But for 25 or fewer, it's a little bit more challenging to connect it to something, especially given the evidence in front of us.
John, the only thing I can do is connect it to traffic, like I was trying to do the meetings. The idea is if it's acceptable to think that the site should have an impact similar to a 2-3 home development as was described by the applicant in one of the traffic study defenses. If we take those number of in and out trips, and you looked at the gatherings, it's 25 people, it's 28 trips for a single meeting because of number on site plus a bus. You end up with about 30 people as being the equivalent of 2 meetings as far as ins and outs. So that 30 range, now the numbers can be up and down a little bit, but I had meetings with overflow parking require off-site parking and a shuttle with available on-site spaces. The overflow shuttle service can be estimated at 1 to 2 in and outs for a total of 4 trips. That generates a total of 28 trips for a single meeting. Some people on the bus, some people on site. Using the same references to zoning regulations, size 30 inclusive of staff, however, does not support. So I thought 30 inclusive of staff. With respect to gatherings, I can't find any reason for us to say we should limit below the number they asked for. There's no, because you're not having it, we have meetings and traffic is really the only thing you can hold on to. They're not going to generate.
And even that is suggested that it would be almost
Non-binding.
it's almost unimpactful from what the traffic experts have indicated in the report.
No, I'm not arguing the traffic experts. They are correct. The road can handle the volume. What they didn't assess, and which they're not supposed to assess, is the impact on the characteristics of the neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood. We want to keep it a residential neighborhood and have the same kind of traffic flows if you had 3 homes there. Someone could go out and put 3 homes there with no questions.
How do you assess that?
It told us it's 10,000 trips a year. The traffic expert said 2 to 3 home development generates 10,000 trips a year. Is it testimony?
The analysis is good. But I mean, there's other things that could be there by right, like the bed and breakfast.
Right.
So that's another comparison around those two.
They have much fewer people.
We also got a number from the foundation when the public hearing was still open and when this was presented to us and I asked how many people per year and how many staff days, and they gave 1,028 per year and 47 staff days, which is far fewer than what I think the parking for the traffic study
That's well under.
addressed. Which again, it's, you know, it's a balance of this use is allowed by the regulations and it's not a residence. So somewhere in between, we're hoping that we're finding the right balance so it doesn't impact the neighborhood.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm trying to do.
And supporting it with backup.
So,
But this special exception stays with the property, right? As long as they could sell it to another.
and there could be another special exception application, and in fact, using the generalist residence as an example, it's been through several, I think.
However, there's one condition that was added at the suggestion of the applicant that it also requires that the property is owned by a tax exempt organization recognized under
So it had to be a
Internal Revenue
similar
Code.
organization.
Right. So we would have no, if we don't put some specific limits into this, then going forward, the Tremaine Foundation, you know, maybe they decide it's time to stop. They sell the building to another foundation, that foundation can then
Operate
Ratchet up.
under these conditions.
They're bound.
These conditions still run
exactly. So
with the special
that's-
exception.
That's why I think we need to have specific limitations,
And we do have a lot of specific limitations in here, but if
not on
you're
the,
not happy with them, I think at some point, either suggest what you want, or we should just
suggested
go
it
ahead
3
and,
times already, Carol.
but do you have a number that you can support as like an upper limit for how many people? Are you saying 25, no more than 25 people ever allowed on the property?
That's,
And what,
that's based, and then I use the same logic as what,
that's based on if it were a residential use, but it's not a residential use.
That's the
but
problem.
but it's a residential area.
The mixed use area.
Why does this have to run with the deed? So could we limit it to only this foundation owning it?
No, the special exception does run with the land.
So that's just.
The variance would as well. It runs with the property. Yes.
Okay.
Let me ask a question about enforcement. I know the zoning officers would have the enforcement job, but how would that person figure out the number of meetings? For example, let's say a staff member says, hey, I need to meet with our attorney. Chris, can you come up on Wednesday at 3:00 to meet with me? That's a meeting.
Okay.
So how would our zoning officer know about that meeting? I mean, it just seems.
That's
it's
what the
extremely
operating
difficult. Only
plan,
62 meetings for the entire year.
that's what that calendar is, the operating plan that gets submitted.
Every October.
So starting October 1st of 2025 for the 2026
So
year.
it's realistic that the staff person there would know how many times they're gonna ask, we want to get together with our lawyer.
I don't think that's what the meetings are, unless I'm totally wrong. These meetings, quote unquote, are very different than staff working there, full-time and part-time staff working there. If they called a meeting because, hey, come over to my office and meet, that's completely different.
Is it okay, if somebody can show me that, I can certainly learn.
Well, Bob, they also indicated that the staff work remotely most of the time. That's in the record.
Most of the time, sure, okay.
And so, and they operate, they have Zoom meetings and what have you. They don't need to necessarily convene 2 people when they can get on the phone or have a FaceTime meeting together.
Okay, where is the definition of meetings? I guess.
It's in page
In your
4,
findings,
paragraph 2.
in the application documents, these may include exhibits, lectures, discussions, meetings, conferences, retreats, seminars, tours, artist, architect, and designer studios, incubator space for aspiring artists, architects, and designers, all of which are in furtherance of and/or support the foundation's mission. So yes, any meeting falls under meeting,
So
and
the
it
meeting
needs
with
to
the
fall
lawyer
under
would count, yes.
those.
The
So
meeting for the lawyer what?
Would count as a meeting.
Would not, I would not think it would be.
I don't know that we need, meetings are a meeting, so if the foundation is planning to have staff there and hold meetings, it's bound under your condition within that 62 days.
Right, that's a
Otherwise, they
meeting,
meet
right.
somewhere else.
Right, okay,
That's
okay.
the limitation. They have so many to work with in the year. So they have
Totally
to,
unenforceable.
I agree with you, Bob.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't, think about a zoning officer doing that.
I don't know, that's the point. I think that's the point. That's the point. Scheduled meetings of 25 or more, or if they ever have a 150 event, that's where I think we want to have a zoning officer.
And how are they going to report to you, Aaron? I don't understand that. I agree. How's the enforcement going to
annual
happen?
operating plan work? It's submitted every year and
Right.
it shows what the calendar is anticipated for operations. Number of meetings, number of gatherings, and when they're occurring. And events, if they're doing the events. That's to provide some level of transparency of what's happening on the site, so you know ahead of time what's going on.
I
don't,
understand
you know,
that,
I
but how are
think
you going to enforce that? How is the enforcement going to happen? How do you know that that's really what's happening? I think that's what I'm trying, what maybe Bob's saying too.
That's with any use that the commission approves, and compliance where you impose specific conditions. It's, you know, the planning and or the zoning enforcement officer assumes compliance unless they witness non-compliance or receive written complaints.
Yeah.
It's the same of any of your zoning regulations.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the only way to, you know, unless the zoning officer attended a gathering. You know, I don't, there is language under the conditions that allows the zoning enforcement officer to have inspections of the property. It says, the commission through the zoning enforcement officer reserves the right to conduct periodic reviews both on and off site to determine compliance with the terms and conditions of this approval. The commission and the zoning enforcement officer have the right to enforce compliance with the terms and conditions of this special exception.
And I'm sure you do on anything that we approve. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And the language in the operating plan further states that if there is any non-compliance with any, or, you know, town codes or ordinances, then that information must be brought forward to the commission the following year for review.
Okay.
John, how about something like this? I can't get to just a number, just talk about it. If we look at meetings, we have the calendar, we have the 62 activities a year, but besides that, 2 meetings a day, 12 people plus staff, on-site parking only. I'm not sure we can accommodate the residencies and the numbers because it's just so variable. But if you do that, all the parking's on site, and it limits the ins and outs. And that then gets to something that's reasonable for the neighborhood to absorb as far as how it's going to look like cars coming in. The gatherings would be 30 people inclusive of staff. That has a similar impact on ins and outs as far as traffic goes, the traffic volume. The roads can handle it, not worried about that. We're about just the neighborhood. So if you have up to 4 gatherings a month, no meetings on a gathering day, like you said, if you have 30 people inclusive of staff, that has a similar traffic volume impact as the meetings of 12 people. And then residencies are up to 8, but it's never going to be up to 8 because we have limitations on the number of experiences. Right. So it'll be rare that the experience will be the same 56. So I'm willing to take that chance. It's a minimal impact. I'm trying to find a scene to make the compromise. Go somewhere the residencies are only X percent.
The total number of residencies on site at any one time shall not exceed 8 persons.
Right, so then, yeah, it's 8, total number 8, but the experienced residencies are limited, they only have so many.
Well, that could be program stuff.
2 persons. That's 12 calendar days per year are the experienced
Experience,
guests.
but the program guests could be, you could have 3
So we have up to 8. So that's
on-site performance
That's
at
what
a
the
time.
number, so 8,
Well, that requires staff, so it really would be less than, it would require
Staff's
one staff
included.
member
That would be nice.
living on the property.
no, that's included in the residencies.
That's within the 8.
Okay, totally safe.
Yes.
I'm not sure you need to limit the meetings to 12 people with staff because it's a small number. The impact is smaller.
Mhm.
I think the gatherings, you have to include the staff just because it's getting big. So if you say 30, max that staff, someone can do catering, whatever. It's just
And both of those would also have the 8
Yeah.
residencies.
right now, yeah.
But even 30, I understand what you're doing. Trying to put a number on it.
So they talked about 25. If they present 25, what wouldn't be better off cutting back on the meetings in the event, go back to the calendar and cut that down and have fewer of what they're suggesting, fewer days that they can have these meetings, gatherings, or events.
You have to come up with a reason that's defendable report.
Right. And
Yeah.
we could say traffic noise. We do have reason. But I think if you limit the number of people and that has to include staff, that's gonna get trickier. I think that's what we're having a difficult time with. How do you say 10 versus, 25? I mean, if you say 10 and that includes staff there and catering and people cutting the lawn, I just think that gets a little trickier.
It comes in possible to pick a number that works.
No.
Mike, you gotta use the microphone.
I think it becomes difficult. Not impossible, to pick a number that works in all situations and cases that we can imagine. I think we need some way of seeing how it plays. Maybe a month or two, maybe 6 months.
You said that, and I just disagree. So,
How do we know? How do we know that it would be?
kicking the can number.
What's that?
It could be. I understand your point. I just disagree. Don't think it's a viable alternative to have a test case.
Is this the events?
I don't know.
We jumped to
No,
it.
no, no, I don't know.
I'm ready to jump to
I'm
it.
having a hard time following.
A test run, so to speak. Yeah, I agree, Bob. You can't do that. I mean,
Why?
the foundation is gonna put probably $1 million into this house to renovate it, and then we're gonna give them 3 months to see if it works.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
They deserve to be told what we're doing.
Right.
This works, go for it. If it doesn't work for you, then you can make a decision on what you're gonna do. This is what we got for you.
And if it doesn't work for us, we do have the ability to modify it.
When? How?
It's set up as an annual review, but.
No, it's within this purview of, you don't get another bite at the apple every year to reduce the number of what you have approved
Only if
at
it's
this
violation
time.
of the conditions, then we can. go back
Correct.
and use it. It won't be in violation. So yeah, unless they break the rules, the rules stand. So our conditions stand unless they don't follow them, then we have a second bite.
Right, which is why we have the conditions.
Right, that's why I didn't want to get them tight. Because we can't rein it back in.
Did you want to
It gotta be clear.
suggest language to be added to different conditions then?
Well, it's the stuff we're gonna submit, it's the same. Didn't you get it?
I'm not sure where,
If you could tell us what it is.
We got it.
you're talking about your email, Bob?
Yeah, I got it, hold on, which one do you want? The meeting or the gathering? So for the meetings, I said the condition, meetings shall be limited to no more than 12 people inclusive of staff and no more than 2 a day with a minimum of 1 hour gap between all parking to be on site. That was my original condition for me.
So I think what you're saying here is that the 12 has to be inclusive of staff. That's different
That's
from what we
my
have.
position. I'm trying to work with everyone to come with something that we can all agree on. But I would prefer inclusive of staff. That's what the traffic analysis that I did says is equivalent to a 2 or 3 home development being established on that lot. And that would be the same impact on the neighborhood as far as traffic flow, not the road sign, connector, and all kinds of stuff. I'm talking about the tenor characteristic of the neighborhood. I don't think that would be those. That would be if 3 homes were built, it would by right some people. So that's the meetings one. And I've got all the fence above that, and I'm happy to share this once I'm allowed. On the gatherings condition, that's a little something. Gatherings, condition, gatherings shall be limited to 30 attendees inclusive of both EHTF and kitchen staff. No gathering shall be held on the same day as a meeting.
So you're saying for gatherings not to exceed 30 people?
All in, yes. Again, that goes back to the best I could do traffic flow analysis on who's in the progress.
Well, the traffic analysis is the shuttle bus.
Yeah, so I took it, they said it's gonna be the same kind of parking on site as a meeting, plus the shuttle bus. The shuttle bus will add a couple of trips, but there's no meetings on the day of a gathering. There could be 2 meetings on the day of a gathering, so 2 meetings any day, no meetings with gatherings. 2 meetings is the equivalent of 1 gathering with respect to the traffic volume. More or less.
So Bob, just
24
trying to
30
work
people.
this, trying to work what you're saying into the conditions. You're saying for meetings not to exceed a total of
That's right.
12 persons plus staff, or
Inclusive of staff, 12 total.
not to exceed 12 people. So if we look at
Gatherings would be.
number
30.
16, I'm looking at the draft without events. As modeled by the applicant's plan or 1-year example, program days for meetings, gatherings, and experiences will not exceed a total of 62 days. Would this be the place to add meetings shall, as Bob's proposing, not that we're doing this necessarily, but
Technically, I think we're redefining a meeting. So we're taking out their language that says 12 plus staff and saying it's 12 inclusive
Yeah.
of staff.
or saying
Essentially.
the
So
applicant.
it's really, so I think that it's different than the condition itself.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not
this
sure.
is the definition of a meeting.
Maybe it's a question for Aaron, because Aaron, you've written in your facts and findings draft that the applicant requested these numbers.
Those, right, those are, that's the
So would it be
request
a
before
condition
you.
that
So
we-
it would need to be reflected in a condition
Yeah.
if the commission is comfortable capping maximum capacity at these.
Make it just, make it a meetings are defined as condition,
Right,
make it really clear.
right.
I think you could probably just tack it on to one of these.
Like to number 16 in the without events version.
Why not 14?
Yeah, no events as detailed in the application documents where the attendance will exceed 25
yeah.
persons are permitted on site. Meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
it could be-
it's like on 17 where it says, the experienced guests shall be limited to 12 days per calendar year with a maximum of 2 persons per stay. So it's there, it's that kind of adding it on, you know, if you're gonna add it on. Carol, you mentioned,
Yeah.
which one, you were looking at 16?
Because we talk about meetings there.
Yeah. Yep,
But it could also be
Could go
pulled
with
out
14
as
too.
part of 14 where we're saying,
Meeting attendance shall be capped
Yeah.
at maximum meeting attendance, including staff at 12.
so meetings including staff, not to exceed 12? Is that what makes you feel better? Works.
John, is
Yes,
that help you?
And then you wanted to cap gatherings as well, I think?
yeah, sorry. And I think you have to, I don't know where else to put that except to make a separate one.
Well,
It can go in the
under
same
14
one.
14.
All under 14 where we're defining,
Okay, oh, yeah, meeting, yeah, you're right, right.
Gathering attendance, including support.
including, yes, support is better than staff, I think, because
Yes, support.
Caterers
support-
and-
Support staff would be fine.
Staff and support staff.
Support person.
Actually, I like the way you had it here. Attendance will not exceed 25 persons permitted on site. Or 30.
that's to get rid of all the events. the big uppercase events, the 3 events per year.
Exceed 30 persons.
What was the number, Erin?
30?
30.
Is that what you said? So read no events if you're going with the without one. No events as detailed in the application documents where the attendance will exceed 25 persons are permitted on site. Meeting attendance, including staff, shall not exceed 12 persons. Philanthropic and educational gatherings, attendance, including support staff, shall not exceed 30 persons.
Yeah, that's clear.
And I've been working with the no events draft because I think that that's, some of us are okay with events, but especially the larger events, we definitely, 150
It's difficult.
people is a challenge. So
So,
should
but-
we,
But the foundation can apply another year and we'll see if things go well, maybe we can try that.
Well, that's just a, Aaron, if we deny events, we put in a condition, events not allowed, and they come back and ask for modifications, a special exception to put them back in a year? Can they ask again?
Sure.
I would assume anybody can
So
ask
then we
for
don't have to
anything.
put in anything.
To invite them back? No,
You
it's
invite
understood
platforms.
that
It's
somebody
now
could come.
2 by 4
All right,
I mean, it could go both ways.
put in no events, they're allowed to come back and say, we really would like them, here's the reason why. Which we'll tell them why we're saying no.
Anybody can come back.
They can go back and try to convince us.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know.
Legal fees.
But are we all in agreement that the draft without events?
Yeah.
Is definitely the way to go. And that gets rid of the 150 bigger fundraisers. And they can have them at another
All
venue
downtown.
and contribute to the town that way. I think we agree to that.
Yes.
So are we getting close to a vote by any chance?
Sounds like
Erin,
it.
you've made
Yes.
notes.
I'm updating your notes right now in the text and can bring it up if you wanted to move forward
I
tonight.
just had a couple of, should be very non-controversial.
Let's hope so.
There are more, some of the questions for Aaron as to why certain conditions were included. And there was one error in transcribing. So I'll wait till she's done.
What's your question?
Number 4, we call out the maximum height of the structure. Do we need to do that since that's the bulk standard in RU1? Is that required? Or is it just a
The
change?
applicant,
I know, they put it, but we take it out, does it change what they can do?
Why would you want to take it out?
Yeah, why?
not necessarily.
I mean, everything.
Because it's already part of the regulation.
Yeah, that's like the editing that aren't
It's
necessary.
like
So
saying,
we can read it.
I mean, the same with number 2.
That's why I guess my question is this, does a special exception require these kinds of, this level of specificity be put into the conditions? Or is it, I thought it was just bulk standards apply.
I think it clarifies, number 1 is in conducting uses permitted shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and town laws, rules, and regulations, but specific to this site, we do not want them at, just emphasizes.
That's fine, okay, I'm with you.
Is that
I'm
okay?
with it, yeah. The one thing I had was, number 19. It has the continued past 6 p.m. Sunday, Thursday, and 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. The request for meetings and gatherings was to end at 9 p.m. on the weekend. 10 p.m. was the events. So number 19 should say Sunday to continue past 6 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, and it should be not 10 p.m., 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. The 10 was for events.
I agree. I thought that was ridiculously late. Especially that you're going with the one without events, right?
Yep, that's changed.
Yeah, I didn't understand why that was so late.
Okay, so since there are no events,
Yeah,
You don't need it.
Mhm.
do we need a meeting that late?
No, and that's not what was requested. I think that was a cut and paste from
Yeah.
me from
Oh,
the
sorry.
event, so, yep, that was a good catch.
Good catch.
Yeah.
devil is in the details.
The last one is, I don't care if you pick it out or not, but it just bothers me. Number 21, when it says parking for some larger meetings may require residents or staff to be located in the auxiliary gravel lot. We don't care who parks in the auxiliary gravel lot. Anyone can park there.
Where is this?
21
B,
B, last sentence,
and that next one should be.
the level of detail, which is definitely not required.
So what are you saying to take
Just
out?
take it out.
Yeah.
I don't care who parks. Front, car.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's on site. And it can be pointed to an arbitrary restriction and weaken the overall condition.
Is that consensus among?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
On 21B,
21.
it says no parking areas shall be created to accommodate parking for any of the uses permitted except as shown on the July 15th, 2024 site plan as amended and submitted of record with this special exception. Parking for some larger meetings may require that residents or staff be located in the auxiliary gravel lot to free up spaces in the main parking area.
And what are you having a problem with?
It's not our responsibility to say who parks where on the approved parking spaces. We approve the number of spaces. I think it's just extra.
I think this is their internal parking management plan for them to
Which is their-
more to direct residents or those of.
Or to give sort of priority parking to
I know,
certain
but
people?
we don't care.
We don't,
We
it's,
don't care.
their,
We don't care, so just take it out.
okay. Well, or just leave it.
What?
It's their parking plan.
It's their, yes, it's on their site by their own staff.
Their internal parking management plan.
Yeah, but they decided to change that. We don't need to be involved.
Located in the condition.
Why do we have to mandate who parks in what parking spot? That's what we're doing.
Okay.
It's just another thing that's arbitrary, which can be pointed to. I've read enough of it. We went through the whole thing.
So you want to
with the
remove that,
Ledges.
that second sentence in 21B?
Yes, it's arbitrarily, they put it in, arbitrary for us to enforce it. Yeah.
I've relabeled those letters. There was an extra one that was deleted, so now it reads A, B, C, D. and E.
Oh, right, I see
Yeah,
that.
I see that.
I know.
Anything else? Okay, thank you for all that.
Yeah, very kind of easy.
It tightens it up.
I can screen share this. for
And I
you.
think actually talking it through among us helps us all kind of get on board.
Carol,
You're quiet.
Well, number 15, applies to events. Now we're applying to meetings and gatherings, which is fine. But potential objection from the applicant. And then,
I'm okay leaving it, but if there's a reason to take it out,
leave it in.
Do we need number 22 if we're gonna keep the traffic light? Do we?
The road improvements?
Right.
This was from their recording.
but if we're taking out the big events, do
Right.
we still need this? I think it's still a good idea.
Which one?
22.
But we're gonna force them to do some of these things, and I mean,
Well, we say
Do-
they'll
do we-
address it, which requires actually, especially for the trees going to Guilford, to talk about that. Reinforcing the bridge for safety reasons. I don't see any harm since they were willing to do it.
Well,
They offered.
And it was, I think it was part two for the shuttle bus and then the shuttle
Right,
bus is
but it's
allowed.
still a general improvement.
But do you need, I mean, why change the road? if you don't have to?
To make it safer. There was an accident there.
I don't know, seems unnecessary to me to. I mean, if I understood at least that bridge improvement, it was to add guardrails, which it's already too tight.
But
You add guardrails, you're.
The point was made that it only extends it, I think 2 inches was what they said.
Okay, I don't think, I don't see a need for it now. I don't see the need for us to have Guilford make any changes to their roads.
Nothing may happen.
So thoughts about leaving these in or taking them out?
concern is about traffic safety, doesn't it make sense to leave it in?
I think so.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm a minority, I'm a minority.
It's happened to all of us.
We've all been minorities tonight.
Well, we've all been there.
Are you comfortable with the additional language added under the findings for you, for where it applied to section 4.4? And it was A, B, and C, and that was the red language on page 3 that sort of clarified that a little more.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
That was the only other changes that came to this
It's
from,
light gray.
that we didn't,
I've got,
oh,
I don't have color.
I can pull it up.
No, I
No,
got
you
it.
can see
I
it's
mean,
light gray.
I remember what I saw.
It is lighter. Okay, I
You can
apologize.
tell the
I didn't
difference.
realize Michelle printed it in black and white.
Why do
Your
you-
email-
Aaron, are we still without events?
Yes,
We're still on page 3 with, okay,
yes.
Three.
Page 3, no events.
yep.
Aaron, with respect to C, the A and
Yes.
and B are fine. I think there's having many of which have been self-imposed, but applicant is unnecessary to do it. That's fine. With C though, I think you're saying that the only thing that's important, the way I read it, is that the proposed use is in accordance with the comprehensive plan as it is permitted use in the rural residential 1 zone by special exception. I don't interpret the comprehensive plan as needing just that to be in compliance. There's more to it. So I don't know how else to modify it.
You don't have additional language that you,
No, I just read that. I haven't brought in the language yet.
so the comprehensive plan is the combined zoning map and zoning regulations. So when you're looking at this use, is it consistent with the zoning map and the zoning regulations?
Yes, but not just because it's allowed, not because it's a permitted use. It is. I think with the conditions you put in place, it is aligned with the comprehensive plan, but not because it's permitted use. That's one of the reasons. It's in line with the comprehensive plan. Conditions put in place. It's more congruent. I can't think of any word. With the neighborhood, it fits better within the neighborhood.
Compatible.
I think that's a nuance change.
Is in accordance, that doesn't do it for you?
It doesn't really matter. I don't think it matters what we put here. I'm not sure, but it's funny to bring it up.
Were you looking for something like with the incorporation of, or the imposition of conditions
on the
Yes,
development,
like that.
it
Yes.
Supported by the conditions.
maintains consistency with the surrounding area? Is that where you're kind of?
It's aligned with the conditions in section 4.4 with conditions, something like that, so it's broader definition of the comprehensive plan. I think this makes the comprehensive plan seem really small. It's not. I'm trying to find a language I use. I have some.
Well, that's sort of in the last lines of the findings. Specific conditions of approval provide adequate protection of those substantial public interests, essentially, is the language.
Yeah, you covered it. So one thing, maybe this language helps. This is from section 5.1 in the regulations. There's a lot of words before it, but basically it says, it is intended that all uses permitted in these districts be compatible with single-family development and consistent with local street characteristics. We can grab that. The conditions then put this application in alignment with that statement, which is in the regulations themselves, which to me is part of the comprehensive plan.
Those conditions of approval provide adequate protection.
I'm being very nitpicky on that.
Read that again.
Sure. You have to put it into a sentence that works. This is from section 5.1. It is intended that all uses permitted in these districts be compatible with single-family development and consistent with local street characteristics. We're talking about the RE1 district.
So do you want to add compatible and consistent?
I think
Because it's the same language?
if you put this in there and say it's allowed in the zone, the conditions, with the conditions imposed, it is now compatible with single-family development as required, or as not required, but as implied by the comprehensive plan.
The imposed conditions of approval provide. Imposed conditions of approval ensure compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood.
Compatibility and consistency.
And consistency.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Even has some alliteration. All right, it's 9:25.
Okay, so the bad news is that you have to read the whole thing.
Bad news is we have to read the whole thing as revised.
So,
Janet, we're so happy to see you for this meeting.
oh no. It sounded like a.
I don't know if we can, Aaron, do you want to?
Could you just read the revised,
Which
I think 15, 14, 15, and 16 around?
14, 15, and 16?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand those before.
All right, let's do this.
That's, we'll put over the.
14 is no events as detailed in the application documents where the attendance will exceed 25 persons are permitted on site. Meeting attendance,
Should you change that to 30?
No, that's
That's
the
the next
events, the big events that
that's
we're
the
getting rid of.
capital E one.
So.
And then-
Why are we even bringing up this?
Because we have to
Because
say
they have,
they're
they're not
allowing.
included in the approval.
Are we just saying events that are not permitted? I mean, what's? Okay, well. I guess it's just kind of confusing.
You say events as defined in the application of greater than 25 people are not permitted.
So say
That's what we
events
have.
as
Oh, yeah.
detailed are not permitted as opposed to no events?
That's
Yeah.
clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Are
As
not
detailed in the application documents are not.
Taking out the 25.
Well, it's good to clarify that it's the ones that will exceed 25, just so it's, I mean, it's been a confusing application all along because gatherings are events, meetings are
Right.
events, events are events. But they're using sort of uppercase E events, which is the 3 big ones per year,
They
But
are
they've
defined in
defined
your
it. They're
findings.
defined.
and they've defined it.
They're defined in your resolution,
So if you
so.
take events out, then you satisfy, you don't have to specify
Right.
the 25.
So, okay, events as detailed in the application documents are not permitted on site. Meeting attendance, including staff, shall not exceed 12 persons. Philanthropic and educational gatherings attendance, including support staff, shall not exceed 30 persons. And then what was your next one you wanted, John?
Just then, I guess the 3, 15, 16, isn't that what we made all the changes?
Noise we left.
15 was
No,
the same.
Noise is the same.
I didn't make any change to the program days. I left that at 62. I left the residential at 150. I changed 18 to say an Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation staff member shall be required to be in
Right.
residence. We
Okay, so-
changed 19 to 9 PM.
Oops. Are we anywhere limiting the number of 30-person gatherings?
Yes,
Yes.
that's in number 14. After meeting attendance, including staff, shall not exceed 12 people. Philanthropic and educational gatherings attendance, including support staff, shall not exceed 30 people.
But how many of those can they have per?
Month,
Yeah.
4.
Where are we saying that?
That's in their request. We didn't limit that. We just limited
We
the
didn't change
total
it.
calendar.
Not the frequency.
Is, okay, 4,
It's in the facts and findings.
In 16, we limited the
16
total number.
total.
Right.
16 limits the total number.
Per calendar year.
So-
And that's combined, meetings and gatherings, no more than 62.
Which replaces what they have
Total.
in their application of 4 per month.
But they could have,
Up to 4 per
They could
month,
have-
yes.
Up to 4, right.
they could have 48 gatherings.
20 refers to 4 days per month. Addition 20,
Yes, it does.
so simplicity.
Where it says
Right.
the meeting shall not occur on any of the 4 days per month.
But the way that's worded, if I'm understanding it correctly, they could have 48 gatherings per year.
Correct. That's 4 per month.
Which only leaves 14 for anything else, right? Which leaves 14, so the cap is 62. We're not telling them what kind of event they can have on those 62 days.
What kind of meeting or gathering they can have.
Correct.
Okay.
20 was changed also. And added, there shall be no more than 2 meetings held per day. '21 was amended to remove the language of parking in the auxiliary spot. And what else? That was it.
You ready?
Um,
Aaron, how should we do this since, oh, John, you're not.
did we put anything in on the program? Operational review? Or is that in,
That's just as proposed.
that's as proposed?
That is in number 12. Commencing on October 1st and on each 2025 and each October 1st thereafter, the foundation shall submit an updated annual operation plan
to the commission indicating the number and type of each use that are anticipated to be held during each month of the ensuing calendar year, which shall comply with the limitations on such number of uses. In no event may the maximum number of uses exceed the number allowed per this special exception. In the annual operating plan, the foundation will identify and provide contact information for the following point persons: president of the foundation, the accounting manager, and contracted property manager.
So do we still need that if we putting these restrictions in? Specific to 62 days and meetings at 12 and gatherings at 30?
Well, we need to have something that addresses the operational plan, I think.
I guess I'm questioning the need for the operational plan.
I think it is important for us to have that as a way to continue to be consistently in control and to see
What's going on?
if they're reducing meetings or, you know,
It gives
I
us,
think it's important.
yeah, it gives us a framework.
So that we're going to review every year.
It gets turned into the zoning enforcement officer and can be passed along to the commission. But it's typically the CEO that is the
Yeah.
administrator.
Seems redundant, unneeded. I would suggest taking it out, but I would assume I'm in the minority.
Well, it doesn't seem to put us under any obligation to do anything. Two, contact people if they're changed or updated, matter of public information.
Or if they're not following the plan, officer finds that they exceeded something in some various manner that we hadn't anticipated. Give us a reference point, John.
We have the reference point. It's in there. But go ahead, if I'm in the minority, let's just move
Well,
forward.
if the zoning officer were to attend one of these or inspect the property, he might want to do it on the day they're having the gathering. He would have that information
No,
provided to him.
There's no day. There's a certain amount for every month.
But when they submit their plan, they would have those dates.
And that's a reference point to enforce.
We're gonna have them submit dates for every meeting.
We're-
Yeah.
gathering.
That's why they shared this with us. It'll look something like this.
Well, that's not telling me what
That's not
day
giving us
that's
access.
on. That's telling me that they're gonna have 3 in January.
Nope, if
Right.
you open it up, it goes month by month.
It's just like a farm that submits for having a wedding.
That's right, there's farm uses that do the same thing.
It's more specifically letting you know how many each month and what types they are. So it does require pre-planning in their programming. So
And it's-
they're-
It's a check and balance, in my opinion.
We're not approving. They're submitting.
Fine.
We put the limits on it.
Right, 9:35, are we ready? And we'll need to read through the facts and findings.
somebody would need to make the motion, which would include reading through the facts and findings and the decision, and then a second, and then you can open it up for any other discussion.
I don't know what we want, I don't know.
I think we should take turns reading.
She's put the edited version, you know, with the revisions that we made tonight
Yeah.
up there. I can't see it from here.
I can't either.
Who's
I
making-
can, it's like a teleprompter for me.
Janet?
Yep. Do you want me to start reading?
Hold on.
We didn't have a motion yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
There is no motion until someone reads it.
And the facts and findings do not include the references to the traffic impact that we use to justify the 2 meetings and such. And it doesn't include the references, I think, to the lack of evidence with respect to noise and property values that we use to exclude the events. So that needs to be in there. We need to rise them. If we can rely on other sources of incorporating that information, that's fine. But the facts say, and here say, traffic is fine.
The language, so on page 7 of the decision, of the findings, it said, it does talk about noise concerns specifically regarding events were raised during the public hearing. The applicant self-imposed time limits for meetings, gatherings, events. Additionally, the applicant proposes that noise associated with any events shall not exceed 55 decibels. The next paragraph is about lighting, and then lastly, it says, of concerns raised during the application process, the commission notes that while some may be considered to be based on substantial public interest, specific conditions of approval could provide adequate protection of those interests. The commission finds the hosting of large-scale events on the site to be incompatible with the surrounding residential neighborhoods. The elimination of events from the permitted uses will further preserve the property values and prevent any direct impacts such as noise and other nuisances to the adjacent areas.
We need a similar paragraph limiting the number of meetings since we're reducing that, or
No,
we can
I
rely
think
on.
it's fine.
I just want to make sure we don't know both.
All right, could I have a motion that we approve with conditions specified tonight?
The reading of that is.
After reading the facts and findings is when we make the motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
you can ask for a motion and then somebody will come, somebody needs to volunteer to read it. And that's the motion.
Janet, can you see it on your
Yep,
screen?
I can start. I don't know if my voice will hold it out for 11 pages, but
Great, thanks. So
I can certainly start.
I will have a motion to approve with the following conditions.
Okay.
Is that correct process, Erin? Or do we have a motion to approve with the conditions and here are the facts and findings?
This is part of your resolution, the facts and findings.
So you go through the whole plan.
Yep.
And the conditions.
Mm-hmm. Your facts and findings and decision, and then you have a second.
Okay, ready?
I just
we
want to
just say
make
the
sure
same
I'm making
thing?
the motion at the right time because this is the longest we've ever had.
Janet has to make the motion. She
So
Yep, so Janet, you would make the following motion.
Okay, so I make the following motion that we approve. Oh boy, do I have that?
Your following motion is the following facts and findings. Just read it.
Okay,
That's your motion.
I make a motion that we approve the following facts and findings. The Planning and Zoning Commission has received this application, number 24-10, 6 Opening Hill Road, map 70, lot 1-1/1-14, zone RU1, from owner/applicant, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation Incorporated, for a special exception permit pursuant to section 5.4A and 3.4C for philanthropic and educational use of the property, which includes arts, architecture, and other philanthropic and educational exhibits, meetings, tours, on-site residencies, events, studio and collaborative space, applicants' administrative offices, and a museum/gallery store, all as more specifically and fully set forth in the statement of use and project description as amended, which is included with the application and on file with the Planning and Zoning Commission. A public hearing commenced on May 16th, 2024 at a hybrid meeting in person and via Zoom platform, and was continued on June 20th, 2024, July 16, 2024, August 1, 2024, and August 15, 2024, also hybrid, in-person, and via Zoom platform. At this fifth meeting, the commission closed the public hearing. Deliberations were tabled to September 5, 2024, and continued on September 19th, 2024, and October 3rd, 2024. This proposal includes a request by the applicant to allow the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation to substantially restore and preserve the existing historic structures, grounds, and landscaping on the site, which include a main house with additions, a barn, pool, and surface parking for 12 vehicles. The project does not propose any new buildings. The applicant will install a new subsurface sewage disposal system to service the house and barn. They are also proposing to install a gravel overflow parking area. The foundation looks to utilize the property for philanthropic and educational uses, which include administrative offices, meetings, gatherings, events, and on-site residencies, including a kitchen. As shown on the subsurface sewage disposal system plan and the site plan prepared for the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation by Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors, PC, the applicant is not proposing any activities within the 100-foot inland wetlands and watercourses upland review area, and therefore has not made application to the Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. Additionally, it is noted that the subject property is not located within the coastal zone. Attorney Christopher M. McKeon of Burstein, Volpe and McKeon, PC. Michelle Napick, president of the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation. Michael J. Ott, PE, LS of Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors, PC. David G. Sullivan, PE, and Nina Peak, AICP, both of SLR International Corporation, and Mark P. Nadeau, SRA Real Estate Appraisers and Consultants, all provided testimony as to the details of the application on behalf of the applicant. The Commission acknowledges that significant public input has been received during this hearing process, both through written and oral testimony. Various concerns have been raised by residents regarding this proposal. As a result, the applicant further clarified and modified the proposed statement of use in an effort to address such concerns. The Commission understands that the applicant has withdrawn the 0.17 acre parcel on Indigo Trail, identified as map 70, lot 1 through 14, from this application as a response to objection raised during the hearing regarding a declaration of restrictive covenants by Indigo Woods LLC, dated September 19, 1995, and recorded in volume 672, page 277. The subject property is located in the Rural Residential -1 RU1 district. The minimum lot area for the zone is 80,000 square feet with 48,000 square feet buildable land, minimum lot width of 200 feet, maximum building coverage of 10%, maximum building height of 30 feet, minimum front yard of 40 feet, minimum rear yard of 30 feet, and minimum side yards each of 30 feet. The parcel is 6 acres and complies with the minimum lot area as well as minimum buildable land. The width of the property exceeds 200 feet. The existing buildings on the site are compliant with minimum lot coverage for the RU1 zone and for the philanthropic use per section 3.4C, as well as required side and yard and rear yard setbacks. However, they are not in conformance with the front setback regulation. The proposed project would not change the location of the existing structures, nor will it expand the legal nonconformity. Section A2 of the Connecticut General Statutes enables the Commission to establish zoning regulations. It further allows the Commission to provide through regulations that certain classes or kinds of buildings, structures, or use of land are permitted only after obtaining a special permit or special exception subject to standards set forth in the regulations and to conditions necessary to protect the public health, safety, convenience, and property values. The Madison zoning regulations in rural districts, section 5.4, allows specific uses permitted by special exception. These include the same uses permitted and in the same manner as a residence district. within the residence district, section 3.4C of the zoning regulations, philanthropic, educational, recreational, or religious uses, excluding correctional institutions and institutions for the support of persons with mental disabilities, are permitted by special exception pursuant to section 4.2 through 4.8. The uses permitted in this section may have a building coverage of 15%. The zoning regulations do not define this particular use in section 19 of the regulations, but note that except as defined below, the words used in these regulations shall have the meaning commonly attributed to them, end quote. The applicant provided testimony from Nina Peak, AICP, which included definitions commonly attributed to philanthropic uses. The Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation is a private tax-exempt 501c3 organization that distributes and is supported by funds set aside for humanitarian purposes. Their mission has been provided in the application documents, which indicate that the foundation seeks and funds innovative projects that advance solutions to basic and enduring problems. With an overall emphasis on education, the foundation takes an active role in three major areas: art, environment, and learning differences. The foundation serves to educate family members in philanthropy, service, and stewardship. The applicant notes that since its inception, the foundation has donated over $100 million in grants in furtherance of its mission. In light of the information provided by the applicant, the Commission acknowledges both the mission statement and philanthropic efforts of the foundation and finds the applicant eligible to apply for special exception use under sections 5.4 and 3.4C of the zoning regulations. In deciding a special exception use application, the Commission is bound by section 4 of the regulations, which prescribes the application process, considerations, and other procedures involved. Special exception uses are those permitted by the regulations as appropriate, harmonious, and desirable within a district, so long as certain criteria are met. However, these uses have certain characteristics which require their location within the district to be considered on an individual basis, so as to weigh the impact of the use upon the surrounding area against the desirability of that use. It is noted and evidenced in the record that the applicant has provided the necessary application form and supplemental information necessary to be deemed complete. In accordance with section 4.3, the applicant attended the June 11th, 2024 meeting of the Advisory Committee on Community Appearance, seeking comments and recommendations. The committee endorsed the project and preservation of the buildings and recommended that any changes pertaining to parking, lighting, or landscaping return to the committee for review. The Madison Planning and Zoning Commission shall grant a special exception permit only if it shall find that A, the proposed use or uses are permitted uses in the district, and that the standards, prerequisites, and conditions specified in the regulations have been met. The Commission finds that the applicant has provided sufficient testimony in the record that demonstrates the proposed use as philanthropic and educational. The specific maximum lot coverage has been met, and the proposal complies with the zoning regulations. B, the public convenience and welfare will be substantially served, and the appropriate use of the neighboring property will not be substantially or permanently injured. The applicant demonstrated consistency with the town's recently adopted Plan of Conservation and Development, including Policy C, preserve and promote Madison's historic and cultural landmarks, public and private. The proposal includes the preservation, renovation, and revitalization of an historic and architecturally significant property. The commission acknowledges and supports the foundation's willingness to pursue a payment in lieu of property tax program with the town of Madison. Additionally, the commission further encourages the foundation to involve the surrounding neighborhood and Madison community in on-site programming where appropriate. The commission recommends several conditions of approval, many of which have been self-imposed by the applicant to protect the safety, health, welfare, and property values of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. C, the proposed uses are in accordance with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan includes the zoning regulations and the zoning map. The commission finds that the proposed use is in accordance with the comprehensive plan as it is permitted use in the rural residential 1 zone by special exception. The imposed conditions of approval ensure compatibility and consistency with the surrounding neighborhood. The regulations further state that special consideration shall be given to the nature of the proposed site and its surrounding area and the extent to which the proposed use might impair the present and future use and development of the area, including its effect upon nearby dwellings, churches, schools, public buildings, and other places of public gathering, taking into account the width of the streets, traffic conditions, and the general effect of the proposed use on public travel. All special exception permits may be granted subject to conditions and safeguards. Other public places of public gathering, taking into account the width of the streets upon public travel. All special exception permits may be granted subject to conditions and safeguards required to preserve public health, safety, convenience, welfare, and the property values of the surrounding areas. The commission finds that the applicant has provided sufficient evidence in the record to demonstrate compatibility with traffic flow on Opening Hill Road. Furthermore, the applicant proposes to implement safety improvements along Opening Hill Road, including the Neck River Bridge, as well as limited sightline clearing for safety ingress and egress from the subject property. The components of the proposed philanthropic and educational use are evidenced in the application documents and oral testimony, administrative offices. The Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation seeks to utilize no more than 1,500 square feet of the existing buildings for administrative offices. The applicant indicates that current staffing for the foundation includes 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees that primarily work remotely. It is anticipated that staff will utilize this office space 1 day per week and during any site programming. Meetings. The applicant is requesting an unlimited number of meetings on site, which will be by invitation only or by prior appointment for up to 12 persons. These may include exhibits, lectures, discussions, meetings, conferences, retreats, seminars, tours, artist, architect, and designer studios, and incubator space for aspiring artists, architects, and designers, all of which are in furtherance and of or support the foundation's mission. These meetings will not be revenue generating. All meetings will occur between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 8 a.m. through 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday. Food and beverage may be served and prepared on site in the service kitchen or by outside catering services. The parking for meetings shall occur on site with any overflow parking located off-site and serviced by a temporary shuttle bus operation. Gatherings. The applicant is seeking allowance for up to 4 gatherings per calendar month, which will be philanthropic or educational in nature, and have no fewer than 13 and no more than 25 persons in attendance, excluding foundation staff and programming staff. Similar to the meetings, these gatherings may serve food and beverage, either prepared on site in the kitchen, or through outside catering services. Gatherings would be limited to the same hours of operation as meetings, 8 a.m. through 6 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. through 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday. The parking arrangements for gatherings shall be the same as for meetings and utilize shuttle service when necessary. These gatherings will not be revenue generating and are intended to support the mission statement of the foundation. Events. The applicant is requesting approval for events that are specifically defined in the statement of use as indoor and/or outdoor experiences, receptions, open houses, presentations, lectures, classes, and exhibits, all of which are or may be open to the public by advance reservation, and the attendance at which will not exceed 25 persons as limited by self-imposed conditions.
Will exceed.
At which will exceed, and the attendance at which will exceed 25 persons as limited by self-imposed conditions. These conditions indicate that attendance cannot exceed 150 persons. Events may be held between the hours of 8 to 6 Sunday through Thursday and 8 to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
They're proposing 10, but
Are we going to say 10?
No, this is the events.
Oh, I'm sorry that we're not doing. I'm sorry. Between the hours of 8 to 6 Sunday through Thursday and 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday. The total number of events shall not exceed 1 per month, nor shall there be more than 3 per calendar year. All parking for the event shall be off-site, and a temporary shuttle operation shall be utilized. Portable lavatories will be provided for all events and located according to the submitted site plan. On-site residences. The applicant seeks approval for a residential component to this use, which includes 3 different types of onset dwelling. Program residencies are proposed as temporary residencies for a maximum of 4 months that includes meals and studio space for artists, art historians, authors, architects, researchers, and nonprofit leaders engaged in educational and creative endeavors. The foundation indicates that participants will be chosen by a peer jury or other similar committee appointed by the applicant. These residencies will not be revenue generating. Staff residencies are for foundation employees, which consist of building and/or grounds maintenance staff, executive director, program coordinators, and resident advisors. Parking will be designated on-site for full-time employees residing on the property. These residencies will not be revenue generating. Experienced guests will consist of invitation only and/or by prior invitation. Temporary guests paying for overnight accommodations at the site, where guests are immersed in the site history, art, architecture, and design experience and/or a curated mission-based educational experience. The applicant is proposing 2 limiting conditions. 1, no other residency besides on-site residencies shall be permitted. On-site residencies may occur in any combination of main house guest rooms, rooms in the main house, guest house, and the barn. Amenities include provisions of all meals. 2, the total number of residencies on site at any one time shall not exceed 8 persons within the 6 bedrooms on site. The applicant further detailed ancillary development/fundraising activities. These activities are included in the specific identified uses where all funds raised will be dedicated to supporting philanthropic and educational activities on site. These include 1, fundraising events of the events listed. Up to 2 of the 3 events may be dedicated to fundraising events. 2, day-long corporate retreats and/or filming photo shoots of the gatherings. Up to 1 of the 4 gatherings may be dedicated to day-long corporate retreats and/or filming photo shoots. 3, experienced guests within the on-site residencies, up to 25% of the annual on-site residencies, excluding staff, may be dedicated to experienced guests. The applicant is proposing a service kitchen and dining area for providing food and beverage to the attendees of meetings, gatherings, events, on-site residencies, and ancillary development fundraising activities. Lastly, the applicant is proposing one placard sign identifying the site not to exceed 6 square feet. The applicant seeks to submit an annual operational plan to ensure conformance as it relates to the management of gatherings, events, on-site residencies, and ancillary development fundraising activities. The proposed plan would be subject to specific criteria and limitations as follows. Applicant shall include number and type of on-site residencies excluding staff, gatherings, events, and ancillary development fundraising activities that are anticipated to be held during each month of the next ensuing calendar year. Applicant shall be limited to conduct only those uses set forth in its annual operational plan for any given year. However, minor changes to a plan for any given year may be approved during such year by the ZEO, subject to the overall usage limits set forth in the special exception, and an increase of not more than 1 in the total number of each type of use shall be considered a minor change in the annual operational plan. The applicant has submitted the annual operational plan for the calendar years 2024 and 2025 in this application, commencing on 10/1/25, and on each October 1st thereafter. The applicant shall submit an updated annual operational plan to the commission, indicating the number and type of each use that are anticipated to be held during each month of the ensuing calendar year, which shall comply with the limitations on such number of uses. In no event may the maximum number of uses exceed the number allowed per month per special exception permit. The applicant further details what information is to be included in the annual operational plan, including the name of the owner and operator of the site, the date of filing last year's plan, copies of all violations, orders, judgments, any other notices issued by any governmental entity or agency at the federal, state, or local level that the applicant is in violation of the special exception or any other applicable law, rule, or regulation which was issued since the filing of last year's plan. A sworn statement that since the filing of the prior year's operational plan, the site has been in compliance with the special exception. The applicant proposes that if the annual operational plan and supporting materials establish that the uses do not exceed the number and types previously approved under the special exception, and no notice nor violation orders have been issued to the applicant in the prior calendar year asserting noncompliance with the special exception, then the commission shall approve said plan. The applicant further proposes that if at the time of filing the annual operational plan, the commission determines noncompliance, or if there has been a notice, violation, or order issued indicating such in the last year, the commission shall, after notice to the applicant, owner of the site, and the persons or parties who were required to be mailed notices by this application, those within 500 feet of site, hold a hearing to determine whether any enforcement action should be taken and whether any amendments to the special exception permit or annual operational plan for the next ensuing year are warranted under the circumstances. The commission acknowledges that traffic concerns associated with the proposed development have been raised. Fear of increased traffic volume on Opening Hill Road and neighborhood side streets, along with inadequate on-site parking, were noted. Opening Hill Road essentially runs north and south past the site. The speed limit on the road is 25 miles per hour. The commission reviewed the written and oral testimony from David G. Sullivan, PE traffic engineer for SLR Consulting International. Both the commission, residents, and the applicant recognize that portions of the existing road narrow to less than 20 feet, as evidenced in the record through both presentation and the written traffic assessment by SLR International Corporation. Opening Hill Road is classified by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as a major collector road. These are roads that connect local roads with arterials. They balance mobility with land access. Generally, two-way collector roads should be 20 to 24 feet wide and typically carry between 500 and 2,500 vehicles per day, although some collectors carry as many as 6,000 vehicles per day. As stated in the traffic report on Opening Hill Road, the annualized average daily traffic was 950 vehicles, well below the 2,500 vehicles per day threshold of a major collector roadway. The portions of Opening Hill Road that were found to be below 20 feet in width are located within the town of Guilford. Mr. Sullivan met with the Guilford town engineer in the field to discuss conditions. It was determined that the Guilford town engineer would contact the tree warden to evaluate the health of the two trees that are located in the shoulder of two narrow sections. If deemed unhealthy, they could be recommended for removal, for which the applicant is agreeing to accept responsibility. With respect to traffic generation from the proposed development, Mr. Sullivan utilized industry standard data and projected future traffic volumes while performing future condition analysis. The proposed site intersections will operate at a level of service A, during all scenarios for peak hours, and no impacts to traffic levels of service are expected to be caused by the proposed development. Several recommendations were made in the report to mitigate potential impacts, and the applicant has proposed these as conditions of approval. Of these recommendations, improvements to the safety of the bridge over the Neck River came in light of a recent crash. Fire truck turning maneuverability has been demonstrated by the applicant's traffic engineer, which shows that the vehicle will be able to access the site from both the north and south on Opening Road. The gravel driveway to overflow parking has been widened to 20 feet, and a turnaround has been created at the rear of the driveway. The applicant further demonstrated turning movement analyses for delivery vehicles and a 22-person shuttle bus entering and exiting the site. As evidenced in the zoning analysis from Nina Peak, AICP, 12 on-site parking spaces currently exist, with 3 in the existing garage and 9 angled spaces adjacent to the circular driveway. The zoning regulations prohibit parking within the front yard. However, 3 spaces exist and are legally non-conforming. Section 8 of the zoning regulations requires 1 parking space per 200 square feet. Okay, of office space, 1 parking space for every 2 guests, lodging house, tourist establishment, hotel, plus 1 space for every person normally employed on the premises. 4 parking spaces are required for a maximum of 8 guests and staff members residing on the property. An additional gravel driveway and parking area will be improved to accommodate an additional 12 spaces for guests or staff. Gatherings and events will incorporate shuttle bus service with off-site parking. No street parking is proposed. The commission further acknowledges that concern has been raised regarding the proximity of the proposed subsurface sewage disposal system to the adjacent Neck River. According to the applicant's civil engineer, Michael Ott, the system has been designed in accordance with the Public Health Code. Local health department approval has been issued, and the application will be reviewed by the Connecticut Department of Public Health for final approval. Noise concerns, specifically regarding events, were raised during the public hearing. The applicant self-imposed time limits for meetings, gatherings, and events. Additionally, the applicant proposes that noise associated with any events shall not exceed 55 decibels as measured at the perimeter property line of the site. To address concerns about light impacts, the applicant recommended a condition that all exterior spotlighting and floodlighting be so shielded that the light source cannot be seen from adjacent property, and no lighting shall constitute a hazard to drivers at night on public streets. Outdoor lighting shall be dark sky compatible, full cutoff type fixtures defined as luminaire or light fixture that by design of the housing does not allow any light dispersion or direct glare to shine above a 90-degree horizontal plane from the base of the light fixture. Lighting at the property lines shall not exceed 0.2 lumens per square foot. Of the concerns raised during this application process, the Commission notes that while some may be considered to be based upon substantial public interest, specific conditions of approval could provide adequate protection of those interests. The Commission finds the hosting of large-scale events on the sign to be incompatible with the surrounding residential neighborhoods. The elimination of events from the permitted uses will further preserve the property values and prevent any direct impacts, such as noise or other nuisances, to the adjacent areas. Decision voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approve application number 24-10, 6 Opening Hill Road, map 70, lot 1-1, zone RU-1, owner/applicant, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation Incorporated, special exception pursuant to section 5.4A and 3.4C for philanthropic and educational use of the property, which use includes arts, architecture, and other philanthropic and educational exhibits, meetings, tours, on-site residencies, events, studio and collaborative space, applicant's administrative office, and a museum/gallery store, all as more specifically and fully set forth in the statement of use and project description as amended, and supplemental application materials, including site plan prepared for the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation, Opening Hill Road, and Indigo Trail, Madison and Guilford, Connecticut, sheet C1.0, and subsurface sewage disposal system plan, sheets 1 through 3, all dated July 15, 2024, by Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors PC, which are included with the application and on file with the Planning and Zoning Commission. This approval is made with the following conditions to ensure compatibility with the surrounding rural residential neighborhood. Okay, guys, I'm pretty pooped. Sorry.
Good job.
Can we cut there? And I'm sorry.
You did great. Thank you. Thank you. That was 7 pages. So I nominate Bob Bernhardt to read. Do you want the microphone or? Okay.
Yeah, can I just stand up here? Mike's, the active mic is there?
I think you're speaking toward that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, me too, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, Bob Reinhardt, continuing. 1, in conducting the uses permitted, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and town laws, rules, and regulations. 2, the building coverage of the site shall not exceed 15% in accordance with section 3.4C of the Madison zoning regulations. 3, at no time shall the site be less than 5 acres. 4, the maximum height of any structure shall be 30 feet in accordance with the RU1 bulk standard. 5, there shall be no construction of any new buildings or expansion of the footprints of existing buildings. Kitchen facilities shall be residential scale. Compliance is consistent with a single-family home. 6, the applicant's materials state the proposed project would implement energy conservation and sustainability measures, thereby advancing environmental protection goals. The Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed these measures as presented and notes that the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation shall incorporate these measures into the restoration and repairs of the existing historic structures. 7, the applicant shall provide evidence of compliance with the CT Public Health Code and any necessary permits prior to the issuance of a preliminary certificate of zoning compliance. 8, prior to conducting any on-site residencies, meetings, or philanthropic and educational gatherings, the sewage disposal system shall meet all state and local requirements and shall be specifically approved by the local health department. Any and all use of the buildings on the site shall be in compliance with the building health and fire codes. 9, on-site signage for the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation shall be no more than 2 square feet as required by 10.1.1A of the Town of Madison zoning regulations. 10, the special exception permit shall remain valid so long as the site is owned by a tax-exempt organization recognized under the Internal Revenue Code or the corresponding provision of any future United States Internal Revenue law. 11, the Commission, through the zoning enforcement officer, reserves the right to conduct periodic reviews both on and off site to determine compliance with the terms and conditions of this approval. The Commission and the zoning enforcement officer shall have the right to enforce compliance with the terms and conditions of this special exception. 12, commencing on October 1st, 2025, and on each October 1st thereafter, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation shall submit an updated annual operation plan to the Commission, indicating the number and type of each use that are anticipated to be held during each month of the ensuing calendar year, which shall comply with the limitations on such number of uses. In no event may the maximum number of uses exceed the number allowed per this special exception. In the annual operating plan, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation will identify and provide contact information for the following point persons: president of the foundation, accounting manager, and contracted property manager. 13, all meetings and gatherings will be sponsored and operated by the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation and not third parties. No outside group or person will be able to rent or use the site for events such as weddings, parties, or other similar events. There should be no on-site museum, gallery, store. 14, events as detailed in the application documents are not permitted on site. Meeting attendance, including staff, shall not exceed 12 persons. Philanthropic and educational gathering attendance, including support staff, shall not exceed 30 persons. 15, noise associated with any meeting or gathering shall not exceed 55 decibels as measured at the perimeter property line of the site. 16, as modeled by the applicant's plan or one-year example, program days for meetings, gatherings, and experienced guests will not exceed a total of 62 days per calendar year, approximately 17%. 17, as modeled by the applicant's planner, one-year example, program residencies as proposed will not exceed a total of 150 days per calendar year, approximately 14%. Experienced guests shall be limited to 12 days per calendar year, approximately 3%, with a maximum of 2 persons per stay. 18, any Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation staff member shall be required to be in residence when program residencies and experienced guests are at the facility. 19, other than occupancy by individuals in on-site residencies, no meetings or philanthropic and educational gatherings shall commence on the site before 8 a.m. or continue past 6 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. 20, programming shall be scheduled such that meetings and gatherings do not overlap with each other. There shall be no more than 2 meetings held per day. Additionally, meetings that occur in the same day shall be scheduled at least 1 hour apart to prevent overlap in traffic entering or exiting the site and no overlap in on-site parking. At no time will the meeting occur in any of the 4 days per month when a philanthropic educational gathering will occur. 21, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation We utilize an internal parking management plan during all operations approved under this special exception. For meetings and philanthropic and educational gatherings, Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation staff will be required to manage on-site parking, including I, placing temporary no parking signs at Open Hill Road and Indigo Way after approval by appropriate local traffic control. No parking area, B, no parking area shall be created to accommodate parking for any of the uses permitted except as shown on the July 15th, 2024 site plan as amended and submitted of record with this special exception. C, except for emergencies, at no time shall there be parking of any street for any activity or use associated with the site. D, parking for gatherings that exceed the number of on-site spaces shall be staged off-site, and participants shall be shown in buses not to exceed 20 passengers inside. E, due to sightline restrictions, the north driveway shall be exit only, and the south driveway shall be enter only. Any brush or branches within the right of way shall be trimmed and maintained as such to prevent obstruction of the sightline. All necessary encroachment permits shall be obtained prior to any vegetation removal. 22. Prior to conducting any on-site residencies, meetings, or philanthropic and educational gatherings, the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation will address the following traffic safety concerns and implement recommendations as detailed by the applicant's traffic engineer. A recent crash at or near the bridge over the Neck River brought to light the opportunity to improve the safety of that bridge. While the width is consistent with much of the road, the abutments pose a lateral obstruction that can be better protected. In particular, a guide rail, advanced signage, and reflectors are proposed by the applicant's traffic engineer. These improvements shall be implemented as offered by the foundation. B, Open Hill Road has areas where the width of the road is less than the guidelines to reflect the road. These segments following Guilford have not been problematic over the years in terms of crashes. In a review with the Guilford town engineer to review these areas, 2 trees that restrict the width were deemed problematic. The Guilford tree warden will be contacted by the town engineer, and if deemed appropriate, these trees will be removed at the cost paid for by the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation as offered by the applicant. 23. Exterior lighting conditions. A, all exterior spot lighting and flood lighting shall be so shielded that the light source cannot be seen from adjacent properties, and no lighting shall constitute a hazard to drivers at night on public streets. B, outdoor lighting shall be dark sky compatible. Full cut-off type fixtures defined as a luminaire or light fixture that by design of the housing does not allow any light dispersion or direct glare to shine above a 90-degree horizontal plane from the base of the light fixture. And C, lighting of the property shall not exceed 0.2 lumens per square foot. Lighting at the property line shall not exceed 0.2 lumens per square foot. 24. The natural tree buffer around the perimeter of the property shall be maintained substantially as it exists today, subject to clearing for gravel accessway and parking area, as shown on the July 15, 2024 site plan, and subject to mature trees dying and needing to be cut down for safety purposes. In the event that changes to the approved plans are required as a result of other agency permitting to support proposed activity, the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to review said changes and require modification of the proposal. This approval is made based upon the finding that the proposed use is a permitted use in the district and that the standards, prerequisites, and conditions specified by the regulations have been met. Public convenience and welfare will be substantially served, and the appropriate use of neighboring properties will not be substantially or permanently injured. The proposed use is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. The effective date of this approval is October 18th, 2024, and upon filing of the certificate of special exception modification on the land records.
Thank you, Bob. Good job.
Yes.
Thank you both, Janet and Bob. The longest we've had, we just set a record. Can I have a second for this motion of approval? Is there any further discussion? Being none, all in favor? Raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Looks to be unanimous. Thank you all. Bravo. Janet, thank you so much for that long read. Excellent job.
Were you all asleep? That's what I want to know. Good to see you. I figured everybody fell asleep.
Edge of our seats. All right, well, I think that concludes the application for 24-10 6 Opening Hill Road. Next on our agenda is 24-32 Longshore Lane. This is the coastal site plan application table of October 17th, 2024. And the next agenda item is 24-35, 21 Circle Beach Road, map 6, lot 8, zone R5, owner 21 Circle Beach, CRCP LLC, applicant Joe Wren, Indigo Land Design, coastal site plan to replace subsurface sewage disposal system within 25 feet of a coastal resource. Erin, are we hearing this application?
This is tabled, a request to table to October 17th.
Can I have a motion to table to October 17th? Mike, second? Jeff, any comments? All in favor? Aye. Great. October 17th. And we have a referral from the Old Elm Street Local Historic District Study Committee, which will be presented by, as I understand, Chairman Tom Boyle on October 17th. Yes. And full disclosure, I'm on that.
Good point.
Tom will do a much better job than I could at presenting it. Moving right along then, approval of minutes, and I turn it over to you, Secretary John Duza.
Sure, September 19th, 2024 meeting, members present, Snow, Downs, Souza, Bugda, Morgan, O'Connor, Reinhardt, and Rubin. Motion for approval. Michael, a second. Well, any comments, discussion, or edits? Yes, Carol.
My last name is Snow, not Shaw.
I think Terry has a block.
I think she's copying and pasting. That's who.
A reminder again.
That's who called the meeting to order. And then I have a couple of corrections on the presenters for the applications. I think, Erin, if this is proper, get the actual people who were here, not who they were representing. So on page 2 for 24-26, it was Azure Slicher.
Azure D, yes.
Yeah, not Joanna. On page 3 for 24-27, it was Chuck Mandel, not Thomas Stevens. And on page 9, 23-46, same thing, Chuck Mandel, not Thomas Stevens. And then last but not least, on page 11, spelling corrections for Reinhardt and Duza.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, thank you.
And I'm done.
Oh, okay, well, I'll get one more, and Jed's last name is spelled incorrectly.
We'll get there
At the very
eventually.
end.
Okay.
All right, anything else? No remarks from me, Erin? Any remarks from the town planner?
No, I have none. Thank you.
Erin, Janet, it was great to see you. Thank you so
Yes.
much for participating.
Thank you guys for
And we're thinking of you.
tolerating me being absent so much. I really appreciate it.
Really understand.
Good to see you.
And we support
Thank
you in every way we can.
Thank you so much.
Move to approve the minutes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Move to approve. Depends on where.
Not today.
On that note, I think a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Any discussion?
Oh, whoops.
Thanks, Jan.
Great.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming.
guys so much. Thanks for letting me in. I couldn't get in with your, I don't know if you saw my note, Erin, but I couldn't get in. So I went, thank you for letting me in the meeting. I was trying for 15 minutes.
Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. I'm glad I saw you in the
I'm glad you
attendance.
Yes, I'm so glad.